blowing together, the
Before you
wonderful
start, hold on,
trees
I'm
and
just going to fill the
plants
water.
and so on, which was the famous favorite place to go for short vacation. And because it was within an area where around Berlin or over 50 kilometers, which would be what 35 miles or what, was the mile determination beyond which you were allowed, even during the war, to travel and go. You were not allowed to leave Berlin and go more than 50 miles outside Berlin to other places without a special Nazi party permission, by whoever was in charge for the particular district you lived in. And since I was in Munich for a visit, and I decided, I heard so much about Dachau, I want to go and see it. Now, when my parents and I, when we went vacation, we got special permission to travel beyond the 50 kilometers, boundary of Berlin for vacation, but we had to have permission and a license to do them. And on the way, the train would go by the concentration camp. You could see the fence, you could see the watchtowers, but they were put in such a way, and there was trees around, that you never had the chance to look over inside.
Yes, yes.
Everybody knew this is a bad place, this is a concentration camp. You'd never ever want to get there, for the simple reason the news that people go there and never return.
Right.
Was not hidden. So never, in this case, the Nazis, of course, wanted to suppress they could not suppress the reputation of it to avoid. No, you don't go there. And since I heard so much about it, in peacetime when I was in Munich to visit my niece, I took a day simply to take a train and go to Dachau. You could take the subway, to the railroad station, which was then 30 minutes away by bus or whatever to the concentration camp, which now has been preserved as a place to remember.
Yes.
And inside, I went in to see everything, including the gas chambers and the crematorium, etc., but also the camp director's own office where he did his stuff. And in this, there was the story of a German whom the camp director found so remarkable that he kept his name with a photo in his office. What happened was, there was a guy who lived in a village right near Dachau. Every day to work, he had to walk to his place where his job was, which was going along the street, along the concentration camp. So you could see the concentration camp, you could see the barbed wire, the guards at the door and at the gate, to get in and what, but not ever see anything else. And other towers, if you could look along the fence, in the middle there was another tower, and a little bit further where you could see this probably is the end of where the confines are, another tower. But so he went to work every day, and one day he decided to take a chance. There got to be a way to find out what's going on. And he, going by there every day, had finally decided there was a particular way when he would not go to the camp, but before he was reaching the camp, that he could go into the bushes and the trees and whatnot, but also after he had passed the camp, there was another area where he could go to the side of the camp to find out. So on Monday to their work, he took a secret way he had mapped out and climbed up, thinking that he could not be seen, climbing up the fence and look over. And got promptly caught. So they took him over to the camp director's office, what the barracks have, of course, who wanted to know in detail what he was after and what was prepared. And he very innocently said, well, look, I live here in the neighborhood, just 10 or 15 minutes away on foot, where the houses where my family and I live in. And I come by here every day and see people come in and go, and others come out. Obviously, I've never seen what you do, and I was curious. And the camp director said, well, you shall find out. They kept him. They kept him for 3 months. They showed him everything.
Yeah.
After 3 months, the camp director got him to his own office and said, now you know what we are doing. I will, believe it or not, I will let you go. But if you say a single word to anybody, including your family, what you have seen, we'll find out, we'll get you back, and then you won't leave anymore. So, how you find an excuse, you know, that you've been away from your family for 3 months, it's your job to find out with some excuse they believe. But I let you go. And they let him go. And after the war was over, the man survived. This story, with his photo, was imprinted, was put in the part which has become a museum, as one who was daring the authorities in the camp and in essence got away with it. Yeah. And this is why I'm able to see it, because I saw the frame with this photograph and, you know, the description, what the particular circumstance. Yeah.
Well, what a story that is, huh? Key, are you getting have the lights kind of dim? Are you getting a pretty clear
it
picture?
okay?
It's good.
Okay, good. All right.
All right. Well, put it in my pocket. In your pocket.
I'm going to tell Wolf how this started, and I'd like you to hear
Okay,
this.
yeah,
Fairly
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
And then you can.
I will sit and listen.
Okay. In 1970, I am living in Palm Springs with my wife. We're very young people. And I discover that my neighbor is a man named Frank Capra. Here we are.
Oh,
Frank Capra was the most famous film director in the
Yeah,
1930s.
Hollywood,
It's
yeah.
a Wonderful Life, Meet John Doe, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. As big as Steven Spielberg is today, you know that name.
Yeah.
this thing was,
Yes.
no, yeah.
So he was very important then.
Yeah.
But he was about 75 and I'm 22.
Mhm.
And we became very, very close friends. My father had died when I was like 21. He became a surrogate father.
Wonderful.
And he starts to introduce me to all his movie star friends. And for example, one day he brings over James Cagney. Do you know that name at all?
Yeah, I do.
The gangster,
Yeah.
right? So that's one. I'm going to hand you this. And then he introduces me to Max Schmeling. Remember Max Schmeling?
Max Schmeling,
The
yes.
great boxer. There, no,
Right.
nothing?
He was
Yeah,
winning
yeah.
over
I wasn't born
to
then.
Louis.
No, but you remember
Yeah,
Schmeling.
I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
South Africa,
So there's Max Schmeling.
I've heard of the name.
Jane Fonda. You know Jane
Yeah.
Fonda? This is all his time. Start at 22. I'm meeting all these people.
Not a
Mm.
favorite of Wolf's.
You don't like Jane Fonda, no?
Jane
Milton
Fonda.
Berle.
Yeah. He after the war
Yes.
got into business in Hamburg, you know. Yeah.
He owned Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
Yes. Lived to be 99.
Wow.
This is Milton Berle. So all these people are parading in my life when I'm very young. And they all become friends because I'm Capra's. This is George Burns, lived to be 100.
wonderful.
Remember
Yes.
George Burns?
When did he die? Wasn't that long ago?
And then he introduces me to Dr. Jonas Salk, who invented the polio vaccine.
Yes.
Right? You know
In
that
fact,
man,
his wife his late wife, who died in June at 100,
right?
there's an exhibition of her artwork at the Athenaeum right now. Did you know that?
Yes,
Yeah, because
I
you
knew
saw
her.
this last
Did you
week.
know that Mrs. Salk?
No, but my mother is very, very close to Jonas
Ah,
in El Camino Canyon, you know.
Gregory Peck. You know Gregory
Oh
Peck?
yeah, oh yes.
Also got to know him. That's part one. Then one day we are having a drink at a golf course in La Quinta. And he says, I'd like you to meet another friend of mine. He's not in the movies, but he's a politician. Okay. His name is Gerald Ford.
Yeah, well, Betty Ford.
Who then became president.
Yes, this is before he's president.
Yeah,
Ah.
he looks the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I recognize him anyway.
Yes, and what's nice is he said, I only keep my friends who I made before I was president or after. Nobody makes friends when they're president.
I want favors.
That's right. They want I want. But if I'm not president, then I don't want so much.
He's a good man.
Good man. And he starts to introduce me to his friends like Jimmy Carter, who's the name, yeah, right?
He's amazing. I mean,
Yes.
It's his birthday, I think, on the 1st of October, I read.
That's well, you're all right. And then Betty Ford. My wife and I start going to breast cancer centers that Betty Ford opens all over the country.
Oh, your
Here
wife
we
is
are in
lovely.
Newport Beach.
Yes, your wife's still
Now,
alive.
My wife is Hilda.
Yes, she's still alive.
this
Yes.
year was
Yes.
Carter.
And then he takes me to Ronald Reagan's office.
Now,
Ah,
can you hold it for the...
Yes.
There's a story about Carter
Yes.
because I personally examined his wife,
Ah,
Rosalind,
really?
in Washington, D.C. when I was in practice in radiology in Washington, D.C. downtown.
Hmm.
She was my patient.
Was she first lady then?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
This is impressive too.
And
Yeah.
that was how to arrange it. When I
Yes.
got the call from the White House physician, he has an important job he wants me to do, but how to do it that it does not go into the public, that nobody finds out. And of course, if she got there's immediately an auto car, and so to avoid that anybody finds out that she is going to a doctor for some examination. And that was certainly something I had to find out, which was very well thinking about it. How do I do it? Number one, she had to be the only one in the office except my staff, not the entire staff, but only two I needed for the procedure. To say to my staff, number one, tomorrow we will have a special examination by the radiation people to want to check as a surprise, check our machinery for fallout and leakage. So for the first 2 hours, our normal program will not be done. We come 2 hours later to work. Except then for 2 I had to look, which is very secret. And so when the doctor called, I told him, Secret Service, 2 people to take her safely to the office, yes. But no only one car, not half a dozen of only her. Nobody will know. And my staff also will be a 2 hour opening later because we have a safety inspection by the radiation people, that we have any leakage. So for the first 2 hours don't come to the office, but 2 I needed, for the job. I had to say, that worked out perfectly fine that way.
Yes.
So I did her, and the reason was they had lost the election.
Ah.
They knew she had to pack out, when she moved. And she had such a stress that the poor woman was eating a totally upset stomach. And our doctor wanted to know, but that's not an ulcer or tumor or whatever. So I examined, for that reason.
Very good. Okay. Now, Ford and Capra and I are having dinner at a country club. This is 1972.
Were you living there permanently?
I'm living permanently in Palm Springs, yes. And there are 5 Japanese college students at the next table. And they all went to UCLA. They had it on their t-shirt, UCLA. And they are talking about a book. They all had the same green book. And we overhear the conversation. And the book is in Japanese. And it's a story of World War II from the Japanese perspective. And it said things like, there was no Bataan Death March, that's phony. We had to bomb Pearl Harbor because the Americans were starving us. They didn't let us have any oil or food. Very, very negative things about the Americans. And Ford and Capra and I are listening to this. We invited them over to our table. And we said, is this the standard textbook for all of Japan? And it was Tokyo High School, which is probably an important one. And they said, yes, this is the way the history of World War II is taught in our country. And they started translating other chapters. It was so lopsided that Capra, who spent 5 years in the war, lost a lot of friends, he was very depressed after this. And Ford felt the same way. He was in the Navy. And they said, is there any way we can set up some kind of an organization that will tell these foreign-born students the truth, not biased on the American side, not biased on the Japanese, just the truth? And they asked me if I could get some books from other areas of Japan. And I did, and it was the same thing. Negative on America. America started the war. We had to bomb Pearl Harbor. No Bataan Death March. Everything that we had learned was gone. And so that's how this program started. And when you had an advertisement like President Gerald Ford, Frank Capra, and Al Greenberg present this program, we got thousands of people to come. Because look who they were going to meet. The former president and the former greatest director in Hollywood. And that's how it got started. And then the students asked, what was it like for someone to grow up in Nazi Germany from 33 to 45 to live there under the Nazis? Who better than this man?
Well, you see,
That's how we get this book.
First of all, I'll just tell you briefly that that's why he came to America, because of this doctor who started this organization. I think it's in the book,
Yep.
Hilton Reed,
Right?
to get a better impression of, give him the photos back. They're not for you. To get a better impression, sending these German doctors over, because German was absolute rubble,
Right.
and they needed America and doctors in America. So that's how it wasn't an exchange. It was one way. They came here, did the internship, and went back, hopefully with a better impression of America.
Yes, yes. So there's a similar
sort of,
tie-in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
By the way, did you ever meet Fanny Leibovitz?
Right.
She just died. She was 100. She was going to be 101.
Lived in La Jolla?
Yes.
Fran Leibowitz?
No. Krasner Leibovitz.
Krasner Leibovitz.
Yeah. She
Look, I have
just
two
died.
more years to make it to
Yeah,
that point.
but she was going to turn 101. But she was born in Latvia. She survived 5 concentration
Ooh-wee.
camps.
Wow, wow.
And she lost 75 family members, and only 2 of them survived from the whole family. But it also was an amazing story. She also wrote a book and also gave many, many talks. But you saw this memoirs. You learned to walk through the memoirs.
Yes.
And this guy, Josh Scott, came to interview us. He came like you did with his family, and we spent the whole day. And he said, well, it was about a year and a half ago he came, and he said, well, I'm going to put it together and so on, and I'll contact you when it's ready. A year went by, we never heard a thing. I said to Wolf, I wonder what's happened. Never heard a thing from the guy, and on the 15th of May he contacted us. He said, it's there for you to see this thing on your memoir. Do you know that it's been viewed over 1.5 million
Ooh.
times with nearly 5,000 comments? But what, he's become a celebrity. I mean, we're answering fan mail. People are sending photographs. One guy sent, he's a vet. He's a veterinarian, not a vet, a war vet. He sent a baseball for him to sign. So he said, you have to practice before you sign it. People said, will you sign my book? Send the book. And even we got some photographs from Germany, this guy, and it's amazing. Even some of young people are interested in World War II veterans.
Yes.
One family phoned, and they were here 2.5 weeks ago. The whole family flew out from Hudson, New York, to come because the son wanted to interview Wolf personally for his 21st birthday present. He's studying history as a major. People flew out, a professor flew out from Delaware to come and spend the day here. 2 professors from Toronto had Zoom interviews. So it's been an ongoing thing, and it keeps coming, something in the mail sometimes, you know.
When did it first start? When did this?
15th of May,
Okay.
when it was first put on onto the television, onto the YouTube, and then it had 350,000 views.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
So
but
1.5 million and growing.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
I never thought that there would be such interest.
but the book, of course, was already a couple of
Yeah.
years before that.
How many copies of this have sold? Any idea?
Don't even know.
I-
It's quite a lot.
I have no idea because it goes over Amazon, and
His daughter keeps track of that. They've just ordered more copies. And I don't know, because he was at a book fair, the Union Tribune book fair, a couple of times. We sold there. And, you know, when people see this YouTube video, they order the book afterwards, and then they send it for signature and so on.
Did you have a publishing company, or is it self-published?
it's a goes through Amazon.
Amazon.
But, you know, he was a ghostwriter.
Well,
Yes.
she
There was a ghostwriter, a journalist from Charlottesville, because his daughters are doctors. They studied at in Virginia, in what's it, Charlotte? Where were they?
no,
Studying?
both of my daughters studied at UVA in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and there she knew somebody from the journalism department, and that's he sort of helped write it. So he flew over to. There was a previous one which he self-wrote. It wasn't exactly, you know.
Are you pleased with the way the ghostwriter worked? Yes, you liked it?
Everybody has liked
Well, I could have done a little bit more,
Right.
you
but
said so.
being that I had
They restricted the pages. It would have cost a lot more over a certain number. So,
Why don't you do a second volume? No?
no.
well, there was one attempt perhaps to augment it, but then the one guy
Yeah,
who
you
was
can tell the
interesting
Yeah.
came for 2 visits. It turned out that he wanted the whole thing to turn it this way, with so and so much percent as the proceeds going to him instead.
And when it comes to money, people are always greedy.
Yeah,
I
that
said
didn't
no.
work out.
You know?
He
Yeah.
came for several interviews, but it didn't work out. He came to the book fair and he said, you know what, maybe I can, you know, do something that will really make it explode as a bestseller.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
started off because he was a guy who wrote novels and things like that, and he came and so on, but it just fizzled
Do you
out.
remember his name at all?
I can't remember his name.
I have to
He was
look it
from
up.
Escondido. He lived in Escondido.
Ah, wow, okay.
So he wasn't. I don't know how well known as an author he is, but
Let me ask you a health question. You're 98, correct?
Yes.
we just went
Well,
to the doctor
in
today.
October.
October.
So we can answer all the questions. We went to the doctor today because he's going to Germany in 2 weeks' time. And I thought, well, maybe you should have a physical before he goes. So we went there today.
Tell me, I want to hear about your diet. Do you exercise? I've met people 98 and their mind, you know, Key is not all there, you know what I mean? He's got a wonderful memory. He's articulate. You move around nicely. You're not in a wheelchair. Is this genetics? What's the secret to be 98 and sitting here with me, 75, and there are days I can hardly move?
We're the
Same
same
age?
vintage. In fact, I'm older.
Well, the simple fact is
What do you do?
I'm a lot slower than I used to be.
Okay.
Now, for me, a long walk is an effort. there was a time when no matter how long the walk was, I didn't get tired, it didn't make any, at the end of a long walk, I still was as fresh as when I started.
I don't know if
I
he
can't
men-
do that anymore.
I don't know if he mentioned in the book that he was a soccer referee until 65.
Yes,
Oh,
he
you
did,
did?
yes,
Okay.
yes. How about your diet? What do you eat that the rest of us should follow?
I eat anything and everything. I have no restriction. The thing is, however, it's a matter of individual taste. I eat fish, but only some fish, and only if in a particular preserve. So, for instance, Sarah loves a particular fish, and says, "Well, she would like to make a fish, but then she makes it for herself because this is a fish I really don't like."
Okay.
You know, so we have our own.
You know,
How about fats? Do you have a lot less fat food?
he eats an egg every single day.
Egg every day, okay.
It is so good for you.
Okay.
Eyes.
I'm a coffee addict.
Okay. How many cups of coffee a day?
5 to 6.
Okay. All right.
That's good for the brain.
How about exercise? Do you do anything in terms of sit-ups, push-ups, any of that?
Well, the simple fact is, in the morning when I get up, I feel stiff, and so then of course what I do is I stand up, and then of course I start doing this and this and this
Right.
a couple of times, and down and up and down and up,
Right.
and I do this, this and the other way around.
Right.
So I do a little bit private exercise right here,
Mhm.
but none of them last longer than between 5 and 10 minutes to get the night laziness out of the system.
How about sleeping? How many hours of sleep do you get a day?
Trying to regular at least.
Eight,
Well,
seven,
that's
eight.
just a different thing. I like to sleep, and usually I'm able to do it to sleep 8 or 9 hours,
No, 7 to 8.
7 to 8,
Let's see what time you go to sleep.
1.
1 o'clock
1 a.m.
a.m.
Wow, okay. And you get up 8 hours later?
Whenever she wakes me up with a cup of coffee.
Okay. Okay.
It could be 8
Upstairs.
o'clock if it's urgent that we have to leave the house earlier,
Mhm.
or somebody is coming, or if it's nothing, sometimes she can let me sleep until 9 o'clock.
Mhm.
But just between 8 and 9.
In your family, are there long living people? If we trace back grandfather, grandmother, do they live exceptionally long lives?
Not really.
Not really.
German genes, I think for starters, German genes are strong.
Yes, they are, yes.
I mean, when you go to Germany, you see what they eat. You
Yes,
don't know how they can
yes.
survive with those big fat pork sausages. And
Were you ever much heavier? Were you 30, 40 pounds heavier, or you kept that weight that you are now?
you were, but you
Well,
were
but I'm
at
around
stage.
140, 100. Well, the
You
best weight I had at one time was 150.
Okay.
No, Wolf.
However, I
you
don't
were-
have that anymore.
Wolf, when you were back in Washington D.C.,
Yeah.
you were heavier.
Yeah, in
There was a
Washington
time.
D.C.
When you went to Switzerland and ate all those chocolates, you came back heavier. You know, basically, well, first of all, he has a big breakfast every day,
Mhm.
standard breakfast, and then we don't eat lunch.
You don't eat lunch?
No.
No. But
Okay.
you know, even dinner, it's basically 4 ounces of protein and a lot of vegetables. Because I'm a vegetable lover. Anything but a mushroom.
You don't get hungry during the day after you have breakfast? What time? 8 o'clock breakfast?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. And next time when is the dinner?
Yeah, around about. Well, it can be any time from 6:30 to.
That's a long wait
whatever.
from 9
Yeah,
to
we
6.
have coffee and.
Yeah, in the middle,
about
something.
Okay.
1 o'clock.
Piece of cake and coffee.
Oh, okay, you do have
Because
that.
I drink a lot of coffee, as I said.
Okay.
And a piece of cake. And once in a while, late afternoon, I know dinner is still a couple of 2 hours away or 3. I go and take one slice of cheese and eat it.
Mhm.
Or and a drink. He has a cocktail, whiskey or something.
Well, whiskey on the rocks, yeah.
How about the brain? Do you do crossword puzzles? Do you, people always tell me as you get older, if you do crossword puzzle, keeps the mind flexible. Anything like that at all?
No.
No.
He's a reader.
Oh, you do read.
A lot.
I read a lot. I can. For me, reading is a necessity. Let's say, if there's a day I don't read, there's something missing somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
You watch a lot of television.
Yes,
Yes.
I do, but not
you
much
read?
in the daytime. Usually
Yeah.
starting after dinner.
Okay.
And
Sometimes
Berliner-
before dinner.
He
Yeah.
reads the German newspaper, Berliner Morgenpost. Yeah, and also, I don't know how much you read of that French newspaper, because he's got a passion for France. And he actually went to France, to Ville, France, to go and do a month's immersion of studying. He took a month off work, and that's what he wanted to do.
Do you speak French?
I used to be fluent. I've lost a little bit because I don't have the opportunity of talking, keeping an exercise. You know, so I would have to refresh it.
Yes.
On the other hand, I can read. You know, it's not a problem. Of course, there are words I have to look up. You know what? Because I don't remember.
That's important as you
Yeah.
get older.
And how have you found your memory is your memory weakened? People tell me as you get 70, 80, 90, you have trouble remembering things that you could easily do it. They say you look at a photo and I could tell who that is at 70, 80 I couldn't, and 90. Talk a little about your memory. Has it changed a lot?
It depends of how long there is an image of somebody I have not seen for decades. You know, I may remember somehow it looks familiar, but I don't know, remember the name.
I mean, a lot of people have
So,
that loss.
But they say you remember things from many, many years ago because
Yeah.
that's right, but
You
not
know,
things recently,
I'll
isn't
tell
that?
you what
right?
my friend taught me. He's a doctor of psychology in Atlanta. And I said to him, what is it with people as they reaching the end of their lives? I had a friend who was 96 years old. She was from Austria. And she was a brilliant brigadier. She came absolutely unbelievable. But then she had a fall and she could not go on. And they put her in hospice. And then she started talking only in German and so on. And my mother never spoke about her mother. Never. But towards the end of her life, she started to, I want my mommy when she was near the end. And I said, what is it that people are talking way back of their childhood? He said, because as you reach the end of your life, you start peeling back all your memories until the last one is your mother, because she's the first person that you ever relate
How
to.
do you like that?
And that's why, because I was curious to find out why people all of a sudden are talking in their mother tongue and so on, which they never did before. And that's
The reason.
Yeah. So I learned something about that, which was interesting.
Yes, yes. Because he's in remarkable shape for you know,
Yeah.
in many, many ways.
Yeah,
You know.
and for me, my favorite let's say, lecture material is really history.
Mhm.
Because I lived history against my will.
Right.
There are too many things to shed them and to forget them, or, you know, it doesn't matter. No. What happened in history was responsible for forming me, to make me what I am right now.
You know what the biggest question the students ask me is, how is it possible for a nation like Germany, 60 million in 1933, to follow a man like Adolf Hitler, to love this
Let
man,
me
to
tell
worship
you,
this man?
when
How is that possible?
Let me tell you.
Because-
let me just say
Well, let her go
something.
first.
Well, hold on. Whenever we go to Europe, I always say, how could one man, when I see all the destruction of everything that has been made into rubble all over Europe, how could one man be allowed to destroy so much?
Right.
One man. But you've got Putin now. All right, it's contained to Ukraine, and he's just waiting for if the rest of the world, which is happening, we become war weary
Right.
and not so keen to give money. Poland's already and so on, and that's what he is banking on. That everybody says, listen, we've had enough. We've given you 80 billion or whatever, and he is dictating the rest of the world. And you know what? If they let him go on like this, he's going to dictate the economy of the world because he's blocking all that grain
That's right.
from
Well,
Ukraine, which supplies 80% of the world. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Grain.
Yes.
Well,
He can control it.
forget about him, but the simple fact is, history is my favorite subject, and I have traveled a lot, and talking about China, I had the incredible luck, that's the only word I can find which fits, in the early 80s, be one of the first Americans to travel to China with a group of, we were 12 or 15 doctors all traveled to China. And the simple fact is, at that time, there were no visas to travel to China. We had to fly from New York to Yugoslavia, which still was Yugoslavia, using Yugoslavian papers in order to be admitted to China,
Yes.
and the same on the way back. And learned, of course, see a lot of people visiting them there, and could tell that some of the Chinese people who understood English to some degree, that they were careful of how they expressed themselves, careful how they were talking about their leaders. A favorite term was always to praise how good Chairman Mao was. Chairman Mao, that was time and again, Chairman Mao.
You'd hear it all day, wouldn't you? From
Yes.
Chairman Mao this, Chairman Mao
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Right. How do you explain Hitler in Germany? If you're talking to the students and they want to know how could 60 million people fall in love with this man? And it was a love affair, wasn't it, between him and the German people? Was that fair?
No, not quite. That was sort of mixed. The only thing is that the brutality of the Nazi party members and their trying to grow and more joining the party, they were very quick to nail you for not giving enough credit how wonderful it was that Hitler has come to remove Germany from the shame of the Treaty of Versailles.
Yes.
And to the point, they were correct.
Yeah.
That's the point. So the Mehrzahl people, well, there's somebody who said, and in this case, of course, unfortunately, the French were some who were trying to twist the after war type of politics,
Yes.
to the disadvantage of the Germans.
Reparations, very bad on reparations.
Yes,
Right?
yeah. And the strange thing, why am I such a hopeless Francophile? Because my family name from my mother's lineage, my mother and her brethren, of course my uncles, my grandfather had French family names. He still kept them until the end, until now.
Let me ask him the students' questions. Okay, let's do a little of that.
Yeah, okay. You need me?
No, but you can stay if you want.
Yeah, I've got so much.
All right.
Catch up. But if you need me, I'll just shout away.
Okay.
So is there some, due to this,
But
I
you see,
almost,
also, I just want to make one point.
Yes.
Hitler came at a time when Germany was on its knees. They had gone through, they were in depression and so on. They had nothing. The mark was worth absolutely nothing. And he came at a time to save the people.
Sure.
And if you look at the similarities, your students, do they ever draw the similarities between Ukraine and Hitler,
Sure,
because Ukraine, Hitler wants to, I mean, Putin wants to have the USSR again. He wants to take
Soviet
back, and that's
Union.
what
Yes.
Hitler wanted as well.
Yes.
Everything that was taken away, they want to put together again
Yes.
and have that together, and that's the whole thing. But it's unbelievable the similarities between Putin and Hitler. I mean, you could really do a movie on that.
Yes. And in the beginning, Hitler did do some good. You know,
Yeah.
the unemployment went down, right?
Yeah.
People got to work. He built the Autobahn, the highway.
Correct.
You know.
Absolutely. And look at Russia, and they both held the Olympics.
That's right.
Hitler
Strangely enough.
had it in 1936, and Putin had both the summer and the winter Olympics to
Yes.
show the world what a wonderful country, and they were thriving.
Yes.
I mean, you go to the south of France, and there's that one little enclave in the south of France, all owned by Russians.
Yes.
All they've even got Russian menus. They've got Russian estate agents, and they're living in Monte Carlo as a tax haven. So that's unbelievable.
Yes. All right. On questions on your father, we have 5 of them. All right. 5 questions.
Well, my
Let's ask
father-
the question, Wolf. You respond to the questions.
my father was a youngster, a teenager when World War I came.
Mhm.
He always told me that he lost his mother early when she was only 39 years old from cancer.
Mhm.
He never talked about his father. He never mentioned his name. So I know nothing what background his father had.
Right.
So my father ended up as a youngster with no education at World War I in the German army artillery. But when it was over after Versailles in 1918, he hadn't learned anything. The war was the only thing, being a soldier and in the military, was the only thing he knew how to handle. What happened? We see it in now here, partly, once in a while. A soldier who comes, is well trained and educated in following orders and knowing the system, that orders you may not like them, but also you realize if they were not ordered in a particular system, there would not be any order. There has to be a discipline in this system. But in this case, he had not learned anything in school. He was a soldier when it ended. Well, he became a policeman.
Right. 1922, is that when he first became a policeman? I think so, no?
1920, 1990, there was some freelance groups who went to the politics, against this communism, which of course is Soviet Russia.
All right.
But I know nothing about his father. But as I said, my mother and my grandfather early had a French family name. They kept until now.
After Hitler took power, did your father feel Germany would be doomed? He did feel that way, didn't he?
Yeah,
And if so, why? Why did he?
he was very, very nervous about it.
Mhm.
And because of his training in the police and some of the things before he became a policeman, that it seems that the early Nazis who wanted to have more people and members, for them it was only one way, namely their way.
Mhm.
And if it was not their way, you were immediately damned, down, down, down.
Yes.
And so therefore, the thing of intimidation, doing anything to make the Nazis angry, that can be dangerous. And in a more advanced, already a couple years after Hitler started, but it was right from the beginning his way of handling things. It has been said that he was angry because he himself thought of himself as an artist, but was not recognized, that whatever he, as Austrian,
Right.
painted, was rejected, it was not good enough,
Right.
so that he had already built in anger against the Germans. So is it true or not? I don't know. I didn't live there, but this is what you ever so often hear and read.
Right. Right.
But what was that then when Hitler came to power, then the party got bigger and bigger, more powerful, to the point where it was unstoppable,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And the thing which you probably already read, the poor dentist.
Tell that story. That's an interesting story about the dentist.
I was already in medical school, my first semester, during the war in 1944.
Right.
A buddy of mine who lived with his parents about 10 minutes on foot away, we were good buddies, came a day, wonderful summer and good weather, and the last class was in well, plants and trees and it's our neighbor. Once in a while they have to go away, then Sarah shows us the dog.
What's the dog's name? Do you know?
Mocha.
Mucka.
Mocha. M-O-C-K-A.
Okay.
Hey, Mocha. Oh, no.
They're always sniffing.
Okay.
Now, was this your dentist? Let's see if we can identify.
No.
Your
No.
friend's dentist?
So what happened is I have to start with the back
All right.
of the story. So my buddy and I, we had only one lecture to do, namely botany, which was prime, fantastic professor, but he was a bad teacher. He was so boring to death. He said, skip it, it's such a nice day, let's go out and walk around a little bit.
Okay.
So walked through the street and came to a big building which was impressive with a brick, with a big sign on the door, court.
People's Court? People's Court.
Nazi court.
Right.
Court building.
Right.
So we went and just to sit down, we were told, you can sit there and listen, People went and just out of curiosity to go in and see. So we went and sit. And witness dosing. The suspect was a dentist who had one woman amongst his patients for almost 12 to 13 years. Thinking in his being in his shoes, he has the same patient for 12 to 13 years. Truly, you talk a lot to each other.
Sure.
You think you know each other after this time.
Right.
And she comes for a normal routine revisit. Doctor, what do you think about the situation? And he says, well, if you listen to Hitler's, the Führer's daily bulletins in the radio, if you read the newspaper, it doesn't look all this good, does it? I mean, after all, we have lost Stalingrad. It was a bitter pill to swallow, our soldiers having difficulty in being almost sacrificed. He didn't know this was, but having difficulties, to talk about the war. Right now, our own reports from Hitler are not very favorable. So we have lost Stalingrad, we have lost Africa,
Yes.
and there's a new fire going on somewhere. And besides, every night another stuff, the city is getting bombed, in the daytime by the Americans, in the nighttime by the English, It doesn't look so nice. But don't looking at her. But don't worry. The Führer is the master soldier and cannot. He has done so many wonders to get Germany back again after Versailles. So he will win. He is the right man at the top term. So she did not apparently say anything else but what he said. The only thing is, when it was a couple of days or what later, that my friend and I, we missed the noon lecture in botany because it was so boring, and we went down and ended up in the courtroom. First time in the courtroom. So we took our seat, and there was this man, a dentist, who was suspected or accused of being a saboteur of the war effort, sabotage of the war effort, and bad words. Again, he, as a matter of fact, he what is here? Well, I told her, I said, don't worry about it. Our Führer knows what he's doing. We will win. It will take a while, but we will win. So he tried 2 different. He had a lawyer, which was I don't know, was it given by the court or did he pay the lawyer? I do not know. I never remember. And the first shock of my life was the judges, 6 judges, scarlet red tunics, going out for deliberation or consultation. About 5 minutes? Not even 10 minutes. 5 minutes, relatively short. They come back. Everybody rise. Just like here. When the court walks on, everybody rises. That's here the same as what was there. Everybody's up. And then, never forget, the defendant has been found guilty as charged. The penalty is death.
Oh, boy.
I mean, there's a man who has done his job as a doctor for years, has taken care of the woman, the patient. Sabotage of the war effort and defeatism, the penalty is death, but they're going to kill him? Yes. 2 days later, his profile, his photo, and a big poster size thing, about this size like this thing up there, Poster size on the red with a black margin around and his name and the name that he has been executed for the sabotage of the war effort.
Boy.
I got over it, obviously, but when I went home, I immediately told my father what happened and said, he said that this, and what he said, when he explained in the court what his discussion was with her, they didn't believe him. But what he had said to the woman, you and I, we have talked to our neighbors like that.
Sure.
You better be quiet and not say anything anymore. This is how I learned to keep my mouth shut.
Was the judge the famous Roland Freisler?
Yes,
Right. Freisler.
he was a chief judge at that,
Yes,
at that
yes,
particular
yes,
street. Yes.
And if you remember when the assassination plot was revealed on Hitler, he would scream at the defendants. Remember,
Yes.
screaming, "You're a bum, you're a
Yes.
scum."
Yeah, yeah.
And they had pants that didn't fit them. Wasn't that the big thing?
Yes.
And Freisler was just screaming at them.
That was the one we saw.
Yes, yes.
That was it. He was the one who was speaking the verdict.
Yes, yes. And if you remember, he was killed in a bombing. They bombed the court and he died there. Right, right. Roland Freisler, I think his name was. Right.
Yeah, but
And that really shocked you.
It was
Even now you're shocked.
An unforgettable thing.
Yeah.
I never can get off this. There's a man who was told he's going to be killed. He's going to die. And I couldn't get it.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about the BBC radio. Did your father and you listen to the BBC radio?
Every night.
And how dangerous was that to do? Was that foolish or
If you get caught, you ended up with almost like Kaiser in court.
how did you do it that you got away with it night after night? Maybe a neighbor heard you or somebody?
Yeah.
No. How did you do it?
No, we never were caught. In this case, I have to describe the circumstances of. We lived in an apartment house. The apartment house was at the cul-de-sac because from the street you had to go to the main street where the buses were and automobile. No, this was a cul-de-sac, a dead area with lots of people living there, and the apartment house was actually a block of different entrances, you know. We lived in the one where we had a free look out with no other building in front of us, so we had a free look at the sky from our living room window. Now, the entrance from the street into the building, through the door, you have the foyer, you know, the entrance to the building. And people who lived there immediately went to the stairs. We didn't have an elevator yet. Immediately went up. Then others who needed to find somebody but didn't know where. There was also a list on metal, you know, hanging down in the wall of the lobby, who was living in what particular level, in which etage, you know, this one, that one. We lived right when from the street you got into the lobby. The first door on the left side from the apartment was ours where we lived. So from the street you go to the lobby and immediately to the left into our apartment. And the first room was the biggest one, which with the furniture my parents had, you know, used as a good one to receive guests and for us to sit. And what my dad came up with was a table where when you sit, you would have, you know, the speaker right in front of you on the table. And he and I, we would sit in front on the chair in front on the table in front of the radio, but having two big blankets, which you use, you know, for bedroom or for the summer where you need blankets. Two blankets draped over our heads and the radio. At the main time, what then, of course, behind the radio dropped down because the table was moved away from the wall. The wall, of course, was the one which was right next to the one from the lobby when you came from the street. So we were sitting in front of the radio, with 2 blankets over our head, and the rest of the major portion of the blankets falling down behind it, so covering the space between the radio and the wall to the lobby.
Mhm.
And the radio only on the set that my father and I, we could hear it, but my mother then was standing at the end from the living room was our own entrance foyer.
Mhm.
So she was standing at the door that she could hear anybody coming from the street into the lobby and wending to the stairs to go upstairs. But if somebody came who did not know or had to visit somebody but didn't know what it was, had to stop at the indication wall, where, as I said, all the list was on behind glass, a list for orientation of the different tenants living there, could stay looking where's the way we have to go. So that took a couple of seconds. But if my mother was standing at the door in our lobby corridor, listening, and if anybody came who did not immediately go to the stairs, but standing, perhaps for orientation, she would give us a sign. My father would immediately take the blankets, lift them up, let them drop behind the radio and the table, and spun immediately the dial to a different station, which already was arrested, so that you would hit it again if you needed, for German news or something like that. So if somebody was listening outside, spying on us,
Yes.
we never got caught because my father saw to it that we were well protected. So we heard Radio London every day.
The BBC was in English. Did either you or your father understand English on the radio?
No, that was in German.
It was in German.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And would you compare what they said to what the German radio said? In other words, you have one version from London,
Yes.
one version from Berlin, say.
Yeah, that was very useful for the simple reason, if after, let's say, an attack at noon,
Mhm.
in this case the Nazis were partly honest. They would never hide, they couldn't hide a big air raid anymore.
Right.
It was impossible. So they had to stand and report. Last night, the Hauptstadt, our Reichshauptstadt was it? Reichshauptstadt was the official name in the radio. Was bombarded again by a strong British bomber commands, but 700 bombers were shot down and did not return. And then in the evening on the next day, we hear, this is London, BBC London. Well, the next day actually, because, the British bombed only during the nighttime. The British bombers bombed the German capital, and so and so many hundred or so and so many planes did not return or are not coming back home. So we know the number. But then at 12 o'clock at noon, before the London came, because the German news came always at noon, 12 o'clock from Hitler's headquarters. Well, last night the capital was hit by a severe, extensive attack by British bombers, but our defense was on the wall, and so many hundred or numbers of bombers were shot down. So we knew. And then in the evening, we hear them BBC saying, well, last night our bombers, were bombing Berlin, and so many were lost or did not return, and then compare the two numbers.
Yes.
And if you said, well, the English probably have lost some more, maybe some is still alive and have not died yet, but the Germans are probably more than they wanted to admit. So we usually said them, well, take the middle one, you probably come close enough.
Now, when things got bad, let's say at Stalingrad, as it got worse, and were the German radio was the German radio telling the people the truth, how bad it was, how many hundreds of thousands of no,
Not in the beginning, no.
no. When did you first find out how bad Stalingrad was? Is that a memory in your mind?
Yeah, I don't know which one of the leading generals was actually what was resigning, and or was he blamed or castigated, and by Hitler, that things didn't go the way they should, that he was too open to say, then suddenly the general was no longer there. And then came eventually, months later, it was not a matter of a few weeks. No, I think this took 2 months, 3 months. I would have to look it up. Length of the tragedy, how Stalingrad was destroyed, people were destroyed, all soldiers were destroyed, although the Soviets had heavy losses too, but then simply after they said, well, it has been decided to withdraw, and that was it.
Yes. That was the first time the German army had surrendered anywhere, was Stalingrad.
Yes, yeah.
And remember, Hitler made the general a field marshal. Was that who was that? Who surrendered to the Russians at Stalingrad? Was it?
I would have to look it up.
Yeah. I remember he testified at Nuremberg. I can't think of his name,
Yeah.
but the first time anyone ever surrendered. So were people in the streets, when you realized how bad it was, were your neighbors talking to each other? Boy, that was terrible at Stalingrad, or you kept your mouth shut?
No, this is the thing we are based on what I saw with my classmate, happening to the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
Coming home, when I told my father, listen, what I learned, and so said, you and I, what they were convicted of, you and I, we have said the same thing there. That was what we have done too. So we got to keep our mouth shut and not talk about it.
Okay, right.
That was the learning against you. You don't want to learn this type of stuff converted to you, but in essence, for my friend, classmate, and me, it was a learning experience. Wish it had been an easier, better one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds like that incident with the dentist had a tremendous influence on you.
Yeah.
To just shut up when you were dealing with people, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Because if he could die over telling his patient how the situation was, and did they hang him, do you remember, or they shot him?
Guillotine.
Oh my God.
This was the guillotine after the war.
Whew.
The guillotine was shown in a German Berlin museum.
Mm.
Whether they still have it now, I do not know. But at the time, after the war, when I visited Berlin, living already in the US,
Yes.
you could see the guillotine.
Let's talk about the anti-Semitism of the Nazis. Do you have memories of what they call Kristallnacht? This was November of 1938, when the German population kind of turned on the Jews. They bombed the synagogues, arrested Jewish businessmen. Do you have a memory of what that was at all?
Yeah, a little bit. It was a mixed memory. One is my parents and I, we lived in Neukölln, which was actually a workers' district, not many wealthy
Yes.
people. And there's one thing I remember in retrospect now
Mhm.
of something which is keeping our press right now busy. And that is, marriage of the same sexes.
Yes.
In Germany, that was forbidden.
Mhm.
And we had in the apartment where we lived, in one of the different sections, two men living, both were barbers, having a barber shop. And they were together and they had a dog. And I tried to play with the dog and they didn't let us. And this way my father said, be polite. They have not done any harm to anybody, but do not talk to them. Do not talk to them. He did never tell me why.
So that, what was the? Let's talk about were homosexuals discriminated against as bad as the Jews in Germany? Because there were many gay people in Germany before the war.
Well, that I don't know. My let's say knowledge in the newspapers, and of course due to Nazi propaganda,
Mhm.
Jews were not worth talking about or living or praising or whatever. It was sort of an area. Don't touch it. Be quiet. Don't touch it.
Yes.
I do know that in the apartment house in Berlin where we lived, there was the street were, of course, shops. And one shop which was right next to the one where our apartment house ended and another one began. It was a store of food, the grocery store. But they had eggs, they had the meat, they had the sausage, and it was a wonderful store. My mother went to going there to buy butter, of course, after things started in the war being rationed.
Mhm.
This whole thing was destroyed. One day, brown Nazis demolished the entire inside of that particular store. My mother got upset. She said, now I have to know where we go now and then buy the butter. Yeah. That I remember. And this was left in shambles for several days before then the Nazis sent somebody to clean it up and clean it out. And then apparently somebody else bought, repaired to some other business in there.
Yes.
But that's something I never forget because we always standing on the sidewalk in the street in front of it. This is our grocery store.
Right.
My mother, where do I go now and get our food, our butter? But then things, of course, got rationed anyway, so that made it difficult. And so she had them to find another place in another street, yeah.
Did you have any, when you were growing up, did you have Jewish boyfriends or girlfriends, maybe from school, or socialize with them, in the early 33, 34, 35? Any Jewish friends at all?
No. However, there's one incident I never forget. That after the war, when things started to normalize, and of course the section Germany wasn't a state, a country yet. It was Germany was divided in 4 different military occupation zones.
Right.
And we lived in the American, of course. And there was store and a front, which I knew during the wartime, where a doctor, had his practice to take care of patients, except they had to go into the entry of the entire building from the street, from the sidewalk in, and then right on the left side was the entrance to this big room where the man had his practice as a physician. And he had a son. And in our high school, I saw only for a relatively short time, what was a year at the time, and then he was out and he was no longer there. And I never thought about him anymore until way after the war, when before I came to America, I went through the streets and there I saw his house and sign of a doctor, Dr. Samuel, and this name he had now of course gone, after the war, finished high school. Kurt Samuel, S-A-M-U-E, Samuel,
Yes.
Kurt Samuel. Well, very nice, good friend. And so after I visited him, telling him, that I've been a prisoner of war and now I'm going out finishing medical school and so on. At that time I didn't know yet that I would actually end up as doing my internship in the US. I visited him and he introduced me to his father. And then one day we sat together and this is when he told his family story. His father was Jewish. His mother was a Catholic. And if you use, let's say, the American version of describing streets, well, this is 3 blocks or 4 blocks, or this is 5 blocks long before you have the next side street or what, or this is a shorter street, there are only 4 blocks, in other words, not the selling, but how many houses make up 1 block. And in the street where the entrance was to the praxis of the doctor, there was further down, a couple of blocks, 4 blocks, 5 blocks, a big brownstone building with many apartments. And that was filled with foreign workers who, as strange, well, today of course it's common to describe them as slave workers.
Right.
Because they had worked for the Nazis in the armament industry and so on to maintain the war. But they worked as groups together in this big block. It was 4 levels high, and each one, not that every pair or every family had 1 room, no, they had 5 or 6 for 1 room,
Yes.
but from there they were picked up, taken by a truck or whatever to the factory where they had to work and then went back again. And this happened also during the war, which of course at that time I didn't know that. But then afterwards, Kurt told me his story. He said, no, because after all, Samuel, he said, the Jewish, he says, yeah, my father. He said, I am not. I'm Catholic. He says, most countries, especially those with a Catholic, the mother's line is the one which determines how you are being baptized.
That's right, yeah.
So since I was a child of my mother, the Catholic, called Samuel, so my father, I was baptized and lived as a Catholic. And he said there was a time when one day, suddenly, a car came with 3 guys in. One was driver and 2 came in. They were agents of the Gestapo, and they wanted to take Dad away. They were going to take him in. And he said, Mother would not have a cheese. Started screaming, and they 2 guys were, of course, heavier than the family, you know. They took him out of the house onto the sidewalk where the car was parked with the driver. And she screamed, and you know, if you take him, you have to take the entire family. You take me. You have to take our son. We will not let our father go. And so, and what happens in Berlin? There may be 3, 4 people having an argument or what to start get nasty on the street. Immediately, a big group around, you know, what is going on here? What is going on here? You know, so as Mrs. Samuel and Kurt went out because her father was dragged out in the street with a push to get him into the automobile. Lots of people getting immediately into the sight and the hands of the Gestapo agent. Don't let the man go, let the man go. Don't take the man. We are here, let the man go. And they got so intimidated that they let him go.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. Let him go. Sigh of relief of Dr. Samuel, of Kurt, who at that time then applied to become a medical student, and his mother. And they said, well, they probably are going to come back later in the night or tomorrow or whatever. And they did. It never came.
Never came.
However, suddenly Dr. Samuel gets a letter from the government. Which agency, I don't remember, announcing him to be the caretaker of foreign workers. And as I mentioned, started to explain, in the same street but a couple of blocks further down was a big building with many apartments, but many people living always in one apartment. All of these people were slave workers who, under Nazi pressure, worked for the German armament industry, were picked up in the morning by trucks, taken to the factory, and then taken back in again. These were. And suddenly, now I have in this case to quote Kurt, the boy, not my colleague, the student. Some of the Nazis suddenly came out with the idea, we take this man away, there's just a bunch of foreign workers. If anybody there in this block full of foreign workers gets infected, that will be a spread throughout the entire building. You know, we are losing all the workers, the people who are supposed to do our weapons, you know, all that getting sick and either dead or in the hospitals. You know, we have to prevent, we have to keep these people alive. So now, as I said, 10 or how many days later, I don't recall, Dr. Samuel Sr. get the letter that he has been nominated to be the doctor in charge of taking care of the foreign workers in this big block to prevent an outbreak of infectious diseases.
Yes.
And this is how he and the family survived the war.
Yes. Quite a story.
Yeah.
How about the Hitler Youth? Were you forced to join the Hitler
Yeah.
Youth? Tell me about that experience. What was that like?
Automatically, by age groups. Now the older one, in the age between 10 and 14, that was organized in, now shall I say, what is a good term, you might say, interest groups. Now, but you could learn how an automobile,
Auto repair.
yeah. So they were trained as automobile. Others were trained to do something where they had to file and use technical equipment to build machinery or parts of machinery, all in this. So as I said, these people were always picked up and then in the daytime taken to the job and then answered to it. So somebody said, yeah, but if they get sick, we lose them all.
Sure.
Maybe. Let's get Dr. Samuel as their doctor. It's his responsibility to keep these people alive and working so that we don't lose these workers.
Right.
And this is how he and Kurt survived the war.
Would they allow Jews to join the Hitler Youth? Was it
No.
everybody?
Oh, no.
Who would join? Just
Well, if you were 10, you were called the Jungvolk, the young group. If you were 10 to 14, it was called Hitler Youth. And that was, as I said, you could learn how to engine works, whether for automobile or racer or whatever. You could learn how to use a file, how to use some building inside, or being a painter or a hand worker, putting equipment together according to that. So this is what then these people did. And as I said, Dr. Sama himself was responsible to keep these healthy and not infected.
Yeah.
This is how he survived.
Yes, all right.
It was after the war, that long after I came from America, that I met Kurt again. And he had done medicine, he had graduated and was in the city of Berlin in the institute, not the agency, you say here, agency of public health or what, as doctor to function.
Yes.
And then I met him again when my late wife and I, when we had some property in Davos, Switzerland. And then one day, when I kept my contact with Kurt Samuel, as now a doctor working for the city of Berlin, that he and his wife wanted to go to Switzerland, looking for a place. And therefore, we had our place. And I organized for him and his wife to find a wonderful place to rent for 10 days, to spend his vacation in Davos, Switzerland. And I had organized it, and well, don't want to make a big propaganda of it, but to rent a vacation for 10 days in Switzerland, my late wife and I, we had organized for him to get this vacation in Switzerland. We didn't leave it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a paragraph in the book where you describe, it's 1944, you're taking some medical courses, the Americans are bombing, the English are bombing, and you're very optimistic about the future and your career. We want to know how you felt that way when the bombs are destroying the cities, the German armies are losing in Stalingrad. How did you keep up your optimism? I would have been very depressed, probably hiding in a hole.
Yeah, to be honest, that perhaps a little bit of a false interest for me, the night attacks. Up in the sky, you couldn't see the British bombers, except one got caught in the cross of 2 or 3 searchlights,
Mhm.
and then tried frantically to get out of the searchlight beams.
Sure.
Meanwhile, the anti-aircraft artillery was firing what the barrels could get out of them, trying to shoot them down. Ever so often, of course, he succeeded, and one simply blew up. You could see that. Or one would develop fire, leave the unit, and then drop out, or use it on it and then disappear. So that was something where my father and I and our next door neighbor was what the type of interest of we got to see what's going on. For us, it was an adventure to see the bombers up there and how they followed. Oh, one of the things, I'm not sure whether I mentioned that. People who were in the year, I was born 1925, all of those, my classmates who were born 1924, a year younger, they were drawn into the anti-aircraft defense and trained as anti-aircraft artillery
Mhm.
people. They lived with a battery outside the white, the area of the city, where they had created enough clip for anti-aircraft artillery. We have, of course, regular army aircraft artillery soldiers were in charge to teach them. But they lived with the artillery there, did their homework under supervision of the sergeants or what, and then came back with their stuff next day to do. They were taken by truck, by car, from the artillery to this high school when I was my major high school year. And afterwards we were taken back again. Then came moments, events where it did not quite work out. Our classmates from the artillery were come in the morning as usual for classes. Except then suddenly jemand from the Air Force came, everybody from our group out, because they got the forewarning the larger British bomber stream is on approach to probably Berlin. The direction is toward Berlin. Is it eventually going to Berlin or not? They did not know, because sometimes they took the course in direction to Berlin, but then last minute they take a turn elsewhere to bomb another place away from Berlin.
Right.
So when this came, our classmates had to leave the class immediately, go out to the trucks to be taken to their battery, because it was a forewarning in case they do attack Berlin, that the defense is working.
Yes. Once the Russians got into Germany, didn't they take over your parents' home and they had your mother cook for the men? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Talk a little about that.
Yeah.
What did they tell you?
Well, I was already a prisoner,
Right.
but at that time, still in where my dad and I were listening to the radio report, we had the same. Our apartment, by the way, except for losing one window, which got blown out, got repaired, we never had any major damage in our apartment. Our building was, for some reason, saved,
Yes.
intact. No, but you were asking.
The Russians come in and they
Oh.
take over your parents'
Yeah.
apartment.
When I was already absent in prison, and my parents didn't know where I was.
Right, right.
Yeah. No, when the street fighting began, it was a cul-de-sac, which means that the entire people living in the cul-de-sac, and especially that particular branch from our department, was easy to protect against the main street.
Mhm.
So that's where a Soviet military staff used our apartment as their place to stay and as their job.
Mhm.
So they used the dining room and the big table, to put their stuff on, and whatever equipment that they had there. And of course, they used our toilets to go washing and doing this and that and that. And my parents had to live in the room in the back. Now, I have not described that. Our department had, as I said, from the lobby in the entrance. And the big room on the left was the one, our wonderful, where we listened to the radio and all this stuff. And then the next one was a bedroom, regular bedroom. And behind that was another room, but which was only half the size of the master bedroom, only for one person, which was my room.
Right.
So when the Soviets came, they took the main room, the dining room, for their own purposes. And they used the middle room, where my mother in the kitchen was supposed to cook. They gave my mother food stuff, to cook for them.
Mhm.
But when it was lunchtime or dinner time, then my parents had to eat together with the Soviet officers. They never would eat alone. But in this case, my parents ate everything the Soviets ate. They never had any starvation,
Right.
and they were, let's say, decently treated. They were not in any way nasty or
Yes.
bad or what. No, they treated them well. They let them have good food to eat together with them. And of course, what happened during the daytime, when there was an alarm or what, they had to stay in the back room. They could not leave the other room because that would have disturbed probably the communication of the two Russian Soviets parts of their group, Yeah. So
Why do you think they left your mother alone? I've heard that the Russian soldiers would rape every German woman they could find. Why leave your mother alone? Any idea?
Oh, it was a trick. It caught them when was it the rumor in the beginning? My parents heard about it, that women were attacked and misused from people in the same area or the same long stretch elsewhere in other apartments.
Mhm.
How to get out of it.
Right.
What she was lying down on the bed, playing sick, and as soon as any from the fighting troops, came into her, she practiced it fantastically to have a cough. She was coughing, like tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And the Russians immediately went away.
Went away
Yeah.
from it, yeah. Was it as bad as we've heard? I've heard it was just the Russians were getting even for the way the Germans treated them when they took over Russia. It was revenge rather than anything else. Is that your understanding of it?
Well, in a way, only from what I heard from the press and eyewitnesses after I came home.
Right.
So in this case, I can neither say yes or no, but I would think yes. On the other hand, I don't know whether I described it. It has been one Russian who has been most helpful for me to advance of getting, to live and get into the opera and getting into because after the war, well, not after the war, during the war, when I was in high school, not well, we had a teacher, music teacher in high school, and through him I learned classical music and also opera. And one of my classmates was a poor guy. Well, he was mentally almost the smartest. But his only other one was his mother. His father apparently had passed away, so he lived with his mother. And he was brilliant in terms of music. Any music is fantastic. And he had gotten somehow in his free time twice a week or what, or 3 times a week in the evening meaning late afternoon, if it was clear, no alarm, to take the subway to go to the state opera, to attend the opera as an extra man, extra in this cast. And he told me that and said, if you are interested, to see the opera and be on stage yourself, come with me. Perhaps they can take you too. And he did. So I spent a good time during my high school time in the state opera in Berlin, for Lohengrin and Carmen, in costume and mask, to be just an extra with the crowd, and then all the good singers.
Yes.
And there was one in the chorus, was one guy who was brilliant in voice. He also spoke fluently German, and he and I, after doing the opera, during rehearsal, when there was a break, for 15 or 20 minutes, being out on the terrace, fresh air, learning, practicing the new part, the next aria, or something where we had to sing something with a choir or with a chorus. We talked together outside, and he wanted to know what I did and where I came from, and he was a little bit not very talkative. What this was, until a particular day. The day I never forget. Yeah, one day he put me to the side. He would like to talk to me. He thought now being together during vacation, break time in the opera, doing rehearsal time, He had something where I could help him. And the impression and promise not to talk about it to absolutely any. And then he said, well, actually, he's not an Italian. He went under the name Murat Dobcini. Dobcini is Italian. He spoke Italian language too. Murat Dobcini. He wanted to talk to me. But we had been together long enough to talk about this, and that he thought he could trust me. He was not a Russian. He was not an Italian. He was a Russian.
I'll be damned.
He was a Russian prisoner of war who escaped. And there are some arrangements already made, but maybe part of the whole thing, that he has to disappear. The only thing is, for some sign or another, which only he knew, he never told me, if we could hide him for a week or 2 weeks maybe, Heimlich, but until he knows that he can go. And obviously, I didn't know what to say. I said, but there's only one person I had to talk to, with my father, my dad.
Sure.
So I told my father the whole incredible story. I didn't think he would believe me. When he heard it, he said, well, we got to help this guy. I said, how? Well, number one, he has to sleep and stay in your room. You have to be in our room or the other room, your room, he has to stay. He cannot leave the room during the daytime or nighttime. If there's an alarm, because of arm, aerial Fliegeralarm, we said, Fliegeralarm, that there was either another bomber in the process or British or American. He has to say he cannot leave. He has to take a chance. If we get hit, he'll die as a victim. He has to stay, and he cannot come out of any time whatsoever. And I told him that, and he said yes. And this is actually when he told me more certainly that there is a particular connection which is depending on a particular day and a particular time, which only he knows, where then he would leave us to get out of hiding, but not ever mention it. So we did. He stayed with us. Then he disappeared. And that was the end of that. Or I should say, was not the end of that. The war ended. Germany was not a state, it was a military occupation zone. So it had the American, French, British, and Soviet military occupation sector zone. Berlin was divided also in 4 sectors. I had done my examination. I was looking to become a doctor, but I had to go, of course, eventually go for an internship somewhere. But that came later. But then the war was over, and someday, a knock at the door, Murat shows up. He had survived the war. As a matter of fact, because of his voice, having served doing the opera in the choir as a singer, he got the job in the Soviet occupation zone as an artist to sing for the troops. So he had to go to different Soviet stations throughout Eastern Germany, to entertain them. And he brought some fat along, he brought some vodka along, he brought some oil along. He came my parents said, at least once a month or so during my absence, my captivity. He came just to say hello and bringing a little bit something extra, to saying thank you that we protected him, because without hiding him, he could not have made it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You mentioned a POW. What were the conditions like for you as a POW? Talk a little about that, if you would.
Well, the question was which one. The first one, the first time in May, and then beginning of June was in a camp where we were, how many, 10,000 crammed together behind barbed wire, getting daily food, which was actually MRI's meals ready to eat. What the American soldier at the front were doing war camps, activity, got as this, we got that. The only thing is that we were a huge amount. When I was put into this camp, the fence wasn't ready yet. They did not have a kitchen to do anything. That's why we got the American combat rations, because it was the only food the Americans could give us, because they couldn't cook anything yet. There was no kitchen yet. They started building the kitchen.
This is near the Belgian border. Where is this one? This is
Yeah, that was in Western Germany, Wesel, the town of Wesel.
WESEN?
Wesel.
VEL, okay, right.
And
That's your first experience.
yeah. Hang on a second, let me
Sure.
show you something.
All right. Coming out all right, Keith? Still getting it? Pretty good for 98, huh? He's what? Let's see, your father's 80, he's 16 years older than your father. I wonder if he'll live that long.
I don't know. Not treating his body very well.
No, but he's got such luck, you know.
Yeah.
If anybody can survive 2-3 packs of cigarettes a day for 50 years, right? With no downside.
No.
Amazing.
There's somewhere.
Are you looking in your book?
Yeah, a picture book which one of my Ventnor brothers gave me because he lived there.
Oh, okay. So it's not this book, all right.
And I don't.
Does this show the location of your two? This is a map which I think shows the location of your two POW experiences. No?
Yeah, well, Wesel. This is actually one of my brother friends were here. War, it's, you know, on your own house there.
Yes.
Rheinübergang in Niederrhein, 1945.
45. Okay.
95. Wesel.
And that's near the Belgian border, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right. Okay.
And this is where we had to stand
Right.
for about 6 hours or longer
Mm.
in line
Mhm.
to get our food.
6 hours to get the food.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Because it was a big, huge piece of landscape with no building on it,
Mhm.
no trees on it. For your, let's say, daily natural eliminations, there were ditches, you know, where you have to go and stand over them. So that was the only thing. And they started building a fence around. And I was helping, thinking I would get maybe a little bit extra here, a piece of something, you know, helping digging the hole to put the fence posts in. And one thing which is almost pertinent right now in our history and what's going on, occurred to me And in the book I wrote it down, I don't know whether I had the chance to read it yet completely. Going to the fence in that time were all black soldiers. All black. And sometimes, talking to them a little bit, my English was, I knew a few blocks, but not speaking English yet. Talking, one of the blacks would give one of us, a cigarette. And one day I went up to the fence and talked to one, asked if he had a cigarette available, Then he gave me a cigarette. And to my surprise, he said, "You prisoner inside, me prisoner outside."
Where did you sleep? 10,000 men. Did you sleep on the ground?
Yeah.
Just on the ground?
Yes, yeah. No matter what the weather was.
Ah, so it was raining, just pouring rain, you're on the ground.
Yeah. Of course, in this case, you stand up and have your big raincoat, from the uniform. You're standing up and not to be in a puddle of God, no. Try not to be in a puddle. So you were standing up and would hope that your clothes and your raincoat, would protect you enough to not get totally wet.
You think there'd be all kinds of disease? No, there's no sanitation.
Yeah.
You go into the bathroom in ditches.
Exactly.
Were the men getting sick and dying, or what was
Some people probably did die. How many, I do not know.
Okay.
Except when somebody was taken out, removed, we had no way of knowing why, because nobody talked to us.
Yes. Did they interrogate each of the men and want to find out things?
Yeah,
no interrogations.
No interrogation whatsoever.
Huh. Okay.
It was during the last week or so that the kitchen, the fireplace was completed. That we had our first little bit of soup and the first coffee.
And knowing you must have loved the coffee, no?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the coffee was good.
Let's compare that experience with the second POW experience. You were in a couple of POW camps.
Yeah. So I was in that huge American camp until the end of July.
Okay.
Then several hundreds, maybe 1,000, I don't know. I was only part of a big group. Marched down from the height down to the railroad station, put in a train, and then we ended in the Saar area in the southern Germany. And there we were for what, 2 weeks or something like that. Then we were put together in another train, and that train then went to Alsace-Lorraine, to Colmar.
Okay.
Now Colmar, a lovely place. I don't know whether you had a chance to go and visit Colmar.
No.
Lovely place. The city, old, ancient, and full of culture and whatnot. That in Colmar, we were then put in satellite camps. So Colmar was one, and then about some 20 kilometers or what elsewhere was another prisoner camp with a smaller group and whatnot. But we were in an American camp for a while, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where we actually got American uniforms, except the chest, upper portion, and as well as the pants, have a black paint put POW, prisoner of war, yeah, so that if anybody would ask, in the American uniform, yeah. But then we ended up in over Colmar in Kuenheim, and in Kuenheim that was better organized. And there were 2 doctors there. And of course, I introduced myself as a medical student who already had done 1 semester,
Right.
but not reached any further. So they then helped me that I could walk in the infirmary, not in the medical sense, because I wasn't trained for that yet. But for instance, when they were washing some of the bandages or the things, I was helping washing them, and after with an iron drying them up and put. So that was my job, working in the infirmary with these 2 doctors. And then one thing I saw, that every day in the morning the group went out for the day. When they came back, they had sometimes conserve they had food they found and packed in cans already prepared or cooked, and also fruits, cherries, and they always came left out in the morning and came out late afternoon at 5. And I was wondering, these come back always in good spirits, finding a little bit food, even pieces of big conserves, where did they find it? Oh yeah, they are cleaning the mines, the interpersonal mines. And I volunteered to join, and I did. And that was something to keep you alive, because this was a point where during the winter, Patton could not progress any more further. The others could not go any further. Was snow, was ice, whatnot. Then the Battle of the Bulge, of course.
Right.
Everybody came still, so all the fronts were stationized still, but each party, friend and enemy, were trying to protect their own positions and areas, with interpersonal mines. I ended up in one of them, which was very useful of getting conserves and packed pieces of food, and you could go and get fresh cherries from the trees and potatoes and all sorts of stuff. The people from the mine here never had anything to hunger. And there's one chapter you will eventually get to. We were 40 men, and in 3 successive days, August 26, 26, 27, 28, we had 3 accidents. And with loss of over 14 people.
Oof, boy.
And God protected me twice. Wilge next to me did not survive. And there I decided I had to get out of there. Now, since from the 40-17 we are gone, the rest of us, we are not big enough to do the search job on the field. Where at the winter of 44 to 45, the entire area came to a stop. There was no moving, fighting anymore. Everything tried to get surprised, covered and so on. prepare when the weather changes, the war will resume, but until do the best you can, try to save this and save this. You never know when you get it to eat and so.
Sure.
So that was in essence my saving. But then one day, where a group of us were sent out to a little town called Breisach, which was in Germany, at the border of Germany, because there was the Rhine River, where the left bank of the river was still French,
Mm-hmm.
Elsass-Lorraine, but the right side was already Germany. And on the French side, there was one big building which was perhaps already doing peace as a hospital where they could do surgery, but treat, of course, infectious diseases, because they already had antibiotics. In Germany, we didn't have antibiotics. We had no sulfonamide, not even sulfonamides. We didn't have it. The opponent had it, no, but we didn't. So I ended up being sent to this hospital. And there I was told that the leader of the German group down there in helping the doctors in the hospital and in the kitchen, and there was a regular hospital type of a thing, to treat people. That I said, how do you get out of here? Well, once a month, a French doctor will come by, and people we find out are no longer able to do heavy work. They're better off. Get rid of them, send them home. Well, may not be the best one home, but there's nothing else we can do them or get any use out of them. So I said, well, I like to do that. So I did. And so then one day, one of the German doctors from another hospital came, and he was in a high rank as a, what was it? Lieutenant Colonel, maybe?
Yeah.
But in uniform as a doctor, examine, and when he came to examine me, he said, why are you here? Why are you in this line? And I said, well, because I haven't had a heart, I'm heart sick, I'm heart ailment. And he examined me, he said, you are not sick. You don't have a heart disease. You have a slight heart ailment only. So I will put you on the list, however. And then the next day, the French doctor came. And the German doctor, prisoner, had to be there as assistant. And then that was at the top of the building, the top, you had to go up 13 or 14 stairs to get there. And when it was my time, come up here, why are you here? Well, I'm supposed I have a heart ailment. Well, stripped down. Oh, another thing I did. The pastor of the prisoners down there, was a Protestant, Lutheran, and he helped me of hoarding cigarettes. So then before I knew I had to go up there, I had a total of 5 or 6 cigarettes right one after another. When I got up there, take this off. And then a French doctor said, well, to do knee bends, you sing down and up and down, up. And then, now do 10 of them non-stop. And I couldn't make it non-stop. I could do 9, maybe 8, 9. I could barely get up for the next one. The von Stockter used his stethoscope. He saw that I couldn't do the others he wanted. And then he said to the clerk, "À rapatrier. À rapatrier. Schick nach Hause." This is how the captivity for me ended.
Yes. How did you find out that Germany surrendered and that Hitler was dead? Was it in the newspapers, on the radio? How do you find out about that?
Oh, that was at D-Day when Germany surrendered. All the guards outside, and the guards were not only the outside, were set mostly black with rifles, and in the corners some machine guns, and at one corner they had some like saw lighter type of a tank stand, to control of what almost close to 100,000 people. I mean, it was a horrible thing there. So that then they said "à rapatrier," and I knew enough French to know that it's schick nach Hause. So then I was immediately sent back down again, and then it took about a week of processing. So meanwhile, however, something else had happened before. That is that the French commander of the camp in Kühnheim had gotten me twice to come by car to his house, because there was something in the basement of his house needed to be cleaned, or this or that, and he had chosen me to do this in his house as a thank you, of course, some extra food and something extra to eat to take back to the camp and so on. So after the French doctor said "à rapatrier," and I went down to Pastor and said, okay, the trick with the cigarettes helped, I couldn't get off the ground anymore, so I rapatriated, sent them home. Said, yeah, now of course I somehow felt, since the French commander was so nice to 3 times to invite me to his garage to do something, give me plenty to eat and a little bit extra, that I could not simply with the next transport get out of there, that I had to owe to him to say, I'm going home because the doctor called me or classified me as unable to continue, that I was going to be sent home to Germany. So I needed to him to say thank you for his treatment to me. And he said, well, too bad I could not use you earlier, because actually if you had not been sent now, my intent was to keep you here working for me for a whole month, and then I would have sent you home.
Do you remember the Berlin airlift about 1947, 48?
Oh, yes.
The Russians blocked Berlin,
Yes,
and Harry Truman. Talk a little about that. And wasn't there a candy man? Do you remember the candy man?
Yeah.
What memories do you have of the Berlin airlift? Wasn't it Harry Truman who said to Stalin and Truman were fighting, and Stalin closed off the Americans. He was going to starve that sector. Do I have that right?
Yes, but I don't know who was the leader in Germany, or which politician.
Germany, Konrad Adenauer, no?
Or Adenauer.
Was he later?
Yeah, Adenauer. Yeah, Adenauer. Then after Germany became a state,
Right.
Became the first chancellor.
Right. Okay.
But before him, he was, let's say, in the political part in the German after war group, to do what the Allied determined had to be done.
Yes.
And he would take care of it. So, yeah.
Is it true that as a little boy you would dream about the United States and the skyscrapers and you wanted to go to America? Do you any memories of that?
Yes, but yeah.
And why would you want to go to America? Why did you see a picture or a relative told you about it?
Yeah, but at that time when the war was over and I was, doing now my last semester in medical school,
Mhm.
and then the Cold War of the war had not been done yet, but getting even in East Germany was difficult, and that's a different life. But at that time, in West Germany, in the American sector,
Mhm.
at that time you already could go to a movie and see, one of the American movies.
Did you see the New York skyline? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
That's all right. And you wanted to go to America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one, of how I wanted to go to America, was totally, at the moment, the beginning, had nothing. Why I went into medicine was when I still was in medical school, not finished. I had a book, which was a book of an English, a British doctor in private practice who was describing his own activity somewhere near Yorkshire, what his deal was, going to see patients, seeing animals, and this and that and that. And I was so fantastic and enchanted with his description. I always had a soft heart for the English. Right? Why I do not know. But I've been a Anglophile right from the beginning,
Yes.
even when they dropped the bombs. But somehow, so where did you stop me?
When you got to America, did you find discrimination after all? You were in the Wehrmacht, you were a German soldier. Was there discrimination from the Americans?
No,
No?
not really. I have to say, to the honor, no. But the simple fact how this all came together was seeing, apart from the book from England, seeing then movies from England and America.
Okay.
And then, of course, seeing Shirley Temple movies. Oh my God, what a girl! That was a big thing.
Big thing for you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's I like to go. And so, yeah, well, I have to do after when I'm done with the graduation, I have to do an internship.
Right.
And that's not just an American German thing, it's global, it's throughout the world.
Right.
So where do I get the job? Find a place. And one of...
You want some more water? Thank you, King. More water? No?
yes, I don't know where I am.
Your glass is over there. Thanks, King.
Yes, it's
There you go.
still full, so
Yes.
I can use it.
So you're talking about your internship.
Yeah, so therefore I had to find an intern place, and I
Right.
did not know how to begin.
Okay.
And there was one classmate in medical school
Mhm.
when I was studying my last year, before graduation,
Right.
who was a daughter of the German health officer of our district where we lived.
Mhm.
She was a year ahead of me, and she had disappeared. And she was so gorgeous that everybody wanted to date her. Whether anybody ever succeeded, I have no idea, I don't think so. But she suddenly disappeared.
Mhm.
And everybody have you seen so-and-so? No. Where's so-and-so? She is not, suddenly is not here. She disappeared. Well, the questions, of course, died down rather quickly after a while. And then about a year later, suddenly she was there. Oh my God, you are back. Where have you been? Where did you come from? Oh, I just came from America. What? You've been to America? What? America? Yeah, I got a job there as an intern. I did my internship there. I said, what? Tell me about it. How can I do the same? She said, yes, sir, you can. It is just not that difficult. The one thing is you can write to Chicago, to the American government for doctors, they have a catalog of all American hospitals who need people, and you go through the catalog, and the one you pick, then you write to them, or if you can get a telephone somewhere, phone, and apply whether they take you. I said, yeah, but how do you get there? Well, you just have to get transportation and get there. Yeah, but I don't have the money to take the ship to America. No, she said, but there is one way. There is a doctor in New Jersey, the southern part of New Jersey. He's a practitioner, a general medicine doctor, and he has managed to interest hospitals in Pennsylvania and New Jersey to take Germans, but also other foreigners, to do their internship year, which is mandatory throughout the entire world, no matter where. So this is something you have to do whether I like it or not. But you can do that in America, and you pick one out of the catalog there. Said, yeah, but how do you get there? Well, no, you have to take a ship. I said, yeah, no, but I don't have the money, and my dad doesn't make enough money to pay for an ocean boat. She said, well, no, but there's one called right to this particular hospital, St. Mary's Hospital in Passaic, New Jersey. And find an answer. And wrote there, and they said, yes, we can use you. And they pay, number one, I don't have to stay in a hotel, but I live in a hotel. I have my daily meals in a hotel, in a hospital rather, and I can do my entire year in a hospital, and after that then I get certified that I'm American trained and can go into medicine, and that was really all I liked. And she said, yeah, but the one thing is that is, money is if you write to the hospital, which, as I said, I did, and they accepted me. So this is how I came to New Jersey. And they had, for every year of internship, they had 4 people, and always 2 together, 2 and 2, so 4 per hospital. And the ones who came the latest, then had to stay for the second half over when the other one already had done their 4th one to leave and go back home again. So there was sort of a whole over type of a thing. And this is how I got to New Jersey. This is how I bought my own automobile. And that in essence was the beginning of my American life. The only problem then was after, in order to be admitted to the program, number one, and you had to sign with your word of honor, to tell the truth, of course, that you had to be unmarried, you had to promise not to get married in the meantime, that you do not try to extend your visa or use any shady things, or let's say through civilians to get an application for immigration or anything, but that you do 12 months work, get fully sacrificed and certified with documents for that, for your future, but you have to leave and it was at least 3 years where the immigration laws at that year were the case. You had to be out of American terrain for at least 3 months before they would admit your application for immigration. It had to be at least 3 months outside of America. And I took a chance and I filed an application. I was admitted. This is how I came. The only thing is, after a couple of months there, hospital in Passaic, New Jersey, the top floor were our quarters, and you could look with no buildings, with nothing, all the way to Manhattan and see in clear light the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building. So every weekend I spent in Manhattan, cruising Manhattan on foot and so on, walking around, and I have learned to drive an automobile in Manhattan.
Very good. Good.
Yeah, Sarah sometimes says, sometimes it shows.
Yeah.
I said, I know it.
Why did you choose radiology? Why so many specialties? Why that?
Well, that was when I got my first, after coming from America, I had to start somewhere looking for an internship, but then on the other hand also something. So I accepted the thing from the inventor from, well, the type where doctor, the doctor, the American doctor was a practitioner or internist in New Jersey, in the southern portion. And by religion, he was a Quaker in his wife. And came World War II, where crazy Hitler was the one who actually declared war to America.
That's right.
You know, where then came and I signed, but the more I was there, the more I liked it. I knew I was allowed only to stay 1 year, plus 3 weeks of travel around to see the country, but leave America and not come back for at least 3 years or what. I signed it. I knew I had to keep my word of honor. But then somebody who knew English better than I did at the moment came up with an English phrase. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I said, what? Stupid. It can't be real. You cannot have your cake and eat it too? Yeah, that's what the words, the proverb in England says. That doesn't make any sense. What do you do with a cake if you cannot eat? You listen to the damn thing only one? But somehow, thinking about the illogical sense, you have your cake and you cannot eat it. There got to be a way where I can eat it. Except then, looking at from the distance, Empire State Building and Chrysler Building, especially in good weather, taking a bus or somebody driving me there, giving me driving lessons in Manhattan. The more I liked it, the more I knew about New York. And I can come back here because I got to be away for 3 months. Doesn't make sense. So I wrote a letter to the Pentagon saying I'm presently undergoing medical training in America. At such and such a time I will be finished and it can be certified of my qualifications. I know that the US is having under NATO hundreds of military installation all over Europe. Somewhere ought to be a place where I can be helpful. And I sent that letter out. What was it? My third or fourth month. And within 2 weeks I get the letter. I opened it. And at that time, if I remember, it was still the same government bullshit as you find it right now. Dear sir, we confirm receipt of your letter dated such and such concerning so and so period. We regret to inform you that there is presently nothing available period. However, should anything turn up, we have your name and address on file period. And that was it. And I thought it would never happen. So I did my time. I left with trains. Came home, my parents were happy. I came back normal, but I had no income. I had to find a job. I got a letter in America, in Alexandria, Virginia. No, wait a minute. Let me get the timeline. No. So, oh yeah. Then somebody gave me a job when I said America became my piece of cake to eat. And that letter, that I was able, somebody did it, and it was legal to get a job with the Air Force. So, Air Force, how do I do it? I went home, no job, listening to American radio and British radio, AFN and BFN daily news and come February of 55, 56, 55, a letter from an American hospital in Western Germany to come for an interview. I didn't have the money. No promise that it would even be worth spending the money. So I was sitting, should I borrow money? How do I pay it back if it doesn't add up to anything? So I waited. Then comes February 56. February, the first week. Letter, US Air Force Headquarters, Wiesbaden. I opened the letter. I read it. And I never, ever forget what happened. A short letter inside. You're still available and willing. Report for duty at Bitburg Air Base on Monday morning. Bitburg was in Germany. However, as I found out very quickly, what about you have to be off American ground for 3 years before you ask for immigration? Air Force Bitburg said no problem. Bitburg is American terrain right now. Germany is not the country yet. It's military occupation zone. So you are good in American hands. So with that, I went immediately to Pan Am for Air Force, asking for a flight to Germany. On Sunday, I flew out to Bitburg, where first to Köln, then the train to Bitburg, get to the railroad station, the cashier at the airport restaurant, they have all restaurants in German airports. Well, you're not the first one. We get lots of calls. The Air Force is just about 10 minutes from here. I call and they come and pick you up. They came and picked me up. I spent the first night at the airport, not at the air base, at the American hospital, because they had not just when I said hospital, it was an American hospital because it was built as part of the entire American, let's say, private civil group, because all the Air Force people, be it pilots, be it technicians, be it soldiers, right, who came with families, they had a housing area in Bitburg for Americans to live in, and in order for them to have guaranteed medical care. That's where they had an Air Force hospital. And this is where I got my first job at Air Force Hospital in Bitburg, and it was from then on the happiest 2 years in my life.
I like that.
From there, everything was rolling. It was close to Trier. I went to town, and I saw American people every day. I could go to the PX and buy stuff. I hit American in hospital terrain, in the kitchen, in the dining room. In the daytime, of course, I could simply go into town or drive into town and go to a German restaurant and so on. So this and as my thing came. So, the thing is that Bitburg was American terrain, of American occupation base. This is why for the 5 years I needed to be in order to become a citizen. I got credit for the 2 years in Bitburg. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it about Americans that you like so much? The freedom,
Well, what I learned about freedom, about what people who were in America told me, and there is, let me,
looking for a book?
well, there are several books down behind the blackboards in the last.
Let's see. Here's you want these
Behind
here?
the foot, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
This one here?
No, take one simply out oh, that was an old one. But no, take one of the one on top off away. And there's another book.
Well, they're all one. Yeah, you got dozens of them. Wow.
That's from my first wife.
Are they photo albums? Boy, look at that.
Yeah.
Boy,
So
boy.
I need to go to a certain room for a moment.
All right. I think I know what room that is.
Yeah.
And I'll join you in a minute. Oh my God, look at that. Sheesh. Wow. I thought I kept photos. How we doing, Key? All right, keep going, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, good. It is what? Let's just start at just exactly 2 hours. Thank
Whenever you're ready, you know, whenever you've finished or whatever,
All right.
let me know and we can sit down and everything's ready
That
for
would
us
be nice, yes.
to chat further.
Yes.
Because, in fact, did you know a guy by the name of, did you ever remember Fred Dickey, who used to write a column for
Yes.
the Union Tribune?
Yes.
He used to find such interesting people, and through him we met a couple of people who were Germans, and we had linked up with one guy who was a teenager during the war, and he was sent to Czechoslovakia or somewhere else to survive to school. And after the war, they decided to walk back to Germany took
Walk
them 2
back.
months. Yeah. And they had so many obstacles. They stayed in barns. They ate whatever they could along the way. When they came to a river that they had to cross, everything had been blown up, so that you couldn't get across it. They put together blown up boats that they could cross. And so in 2 months it took him to get back to Berlin. And Wolf and he have become very good friends. And he also wrote a little book, a short book about his life. And then there was another guy, Ralph.
Now, how old is the first one? Before you leave the first one, how old is the man who
92 now.
92 lives in La Jolla?
No, he's out in El Cajon.
Okay, yes.
And he also has, they communicate either in German but he's very intelligent. In fact, he became a publisher and he worked for a company in Chicago before coming here. Very nice man.
I'm going to use the restroom while he
Yeah.
hold it on the
Okay.
trip. There you go.
That's-
Restroom is straight ahead to the right.
To the right.
Very
Okay, thanks. Where's the dog?
Right here.
Yeah, she's very good. She's come for a sleepover, my
Yeah.
neighbor's dog. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for one particular type of books.
Yeah, but the thing is, books.
Yeah, only one is a sample.
No, but those are all photo albums. Every one of them is a photo
They're
album.
not all photo albums.
Oh, is that the book you're looking for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, do you live in San Diego?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
I live in Claremont.
Oh, okay. Where about?
Actually, technically, Kearney Mesa. It's Kirkcaldy Drive, so it's like right behind the 24-hour fitness in that
Oh.
area.
Oh, I
There's a
see.
church.
Oh,
There's a bit. I forget what it's called.
I'm
It's got a
not
strange
sure.
name.
Oh,
but
there are
there's
lots of
yeah,
churches
there's a
around
church.
there.
There's a big 24-hour fitness, and it's right behind that.
Because we go to Kaiser in Claremont Mesa Boulevard.
Oh yeah,
We go
it's
there.
very close.
You just were there to drink.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, we were there today.
yeah, we're very close. Like
Yeah.
all of us are within like 10, 15
Oh,
minutes
really?
of each other.
You know, I used to have the most wonderful laundry next to Smart and Final. It was called Amiga, and I went there for years. You know, when we had an accumulation, because in La Jolla the prices are outrageous,
Yeah,
and even in Pacific Beach. And we went there about 10 days ago, and we found that they closed down. I think they didn't renew the lease, and I think they retired.
right.
And so I went to Pacific Beach, and I halved the lot. And I thought, let me see what they charge. Well, the one wanted $40 for a couple of items. I picked them up. I said, no, that's too much. And I took them off. So I'm looking for a laundry that's reasonable. Do you know anything around your area?
No, I mean is it like dry cleaning or just?
Yeah, dry cleaning and yeah.
Yeah.
I'll look on the internet.
Yeah, because we don't use any of that service.
Yeah.
We just use our regular washing machine.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know, but there's certain things I can't iron to save my life. Because
Right,
in
right.
South Africa, I had maids who did that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's got to have shirts ironed and
Yeah.
pants and trousers, so I'll find something.
Now tell me about the second person. You said there were two people. One was 92, lives in
yeah,
El Cajon.
yeah,
How about the
yeah.
second one?
And the other one was Ralph Schultz.
Okay,
He was Jewish,
yes.
but he was young when he left, and he found a way to get an education by signing up as a private with the U.S. Army. He came here, but we lost contact with him.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, when we're having a drink and so on, I'll tell you about somebody else who I became friendly with, and she had an interesting story because she was Jewish from Hamburg. And she came from a well-to-do
This
family.
is what I wanted.
And she actually, I'll tell you about it later.
This is one of the camps,
Oh,
the
my-
first one I
Oh,
was
this is
in.
a beautiful picture. This is something.
Yeah,
Listen, that's
where we were standing for 6 to 8 hours to get our daily ration. And no food because the kitchen hadn't been built here. That's the one why I picked it out to show you.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get a shot of this in the camp. This is just acres and acres of men laying on the ground.
Exactly.
Isn't that something?
Precisely.
My God, there must be thousands here.
Yeah,
So where would you go to the bathroom? Is that what these ditches are? They're big.
yeah, yeah. You
Oh
know.
my God.
But those for that particular purpose were put along on the periphery. So if you're in the middle of them, you know, you had to fight your way through the mass of people to get to the trench where you could do it. So
There are thousands of men here.
yeah,
Thousands. Oh, let's see if we can get a shot of that. That's unbelievable. Look at that place.
yeah. Now, one thing, for instance, we got as ration was little combat rations of
The ones they gave the GIs, GI rations?
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, you know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's something. Wow. Just an open field with thousands of men.
Yes,
Isn't that? And you just go to the bathroom in the ground.
yeah, precisely.
I see. Wow. Must have smelled like, oh my
No,
God.
the wind would not allow it.
Wind.
It was windy enough that no odor. This was the good thing about it. No odor.
No odor, okay. It's got to be some good point here, Mike.
Oh, one thing which was incredible, staying also almost a long time like this, a day, to get your little bottle full of water, because American tanker trucks designed only for water transportation were high up there, driving down to the Rhine River,
Mhm.
throwing their hoses out with a filter in the end, sucking it up, and driving up to here where we were standing in line waiting for them that we could get a cup of water.
Mm.
And they did this around the clock, day and night. These GIs have been working day and night to get us water, that we would have water.
Mhm. How long did you live on the ground like that? Was it 3 months?
That was until the end of July, from June until July.
Okay. Ooh.
Well, actually, starting already. No, it was already in May, because I was captured on the 10th of April. That was 1 month before the war ended.
Mm-hmm.
At which time I was already in that cage there. In this
Yes.
camp.
Camp.
And suddenly, 8th of May, shooting in the air. All the guards outside shooting in the air. The moment, of course, my God, what's happening? You know, what's going to go next? And then the joy of, it's over. We want water, Germany, the war is over. You know, that was.
So that's how you found out that it was over.
Yeah.
How about Hitler committing suicide? Was that in the paper? How did you find out Hitler was dead? Yes, or you didn't know what happened to him? Did you know he was in the bunker for months underneath the ground?
No. That I found later on after I came home and I was reading a whole bunch of literature by eyewitnesses living from Germany,
Yes.
who lived there during the times where what they described. That are all things I did a couple of years ago.
Yes.
At that time I didn't not know.
Did you ever go to any of the rallies where Hitler spoke? The Nuremberg rallies?
No.
Never were in person when he was speaking to the masses.
No. However, I know that since where he lived in the chancellery was Wilhelm Street.
Yes.
My mother and I, we were standing in Wilhelmstraße on the foot trottoir, you know, the walk normal, civil walkway. When both sides full, because he was somewhere, it was announced that he would come back from whatever he was going back into his
Chancellery.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw him. I was pretty much at the edge of the road, the French trottoir.
Was Hitler standing up in the car or just sitting? Sometimes he would stand up and thousands of people on either side would, salute him and cheer him. Was he standing or sitting when you?
No, he was sitting.
Sitting, okay.
But he was sitting on the right side, clearly visible,
Yeah.
going on that side. Yeah.
So you clearly have a memory of seeing him.
Yeah. Once.
Once. How about Goring and Goebbels? Did you see the second and third in command? Any of them? Hermann Goring was a big, heavy fellow.
No.
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 Joseph Goebbels, the little propaganda minister with the limp.
Yeah, I think that was at one time, being Hitler Youth, automatic at the age of 40. And of course, they tell you what to wear. So that was, the shorts,
Mm-hmm.
brown,
Yes.
shirts brown,
Right.
and little cappy,
Mm-hmm.
with a swastika in your arm,
Right.
Yeah. So in that case, there was one thing we had to do near the Olympic Stadium, but the Olympics were not at that time.
It was 36.
Yeah, right.
36. Right.
36.
Right.
No, but some other occasion where Hitler Youth was out, something for Hitler, and Goebbels was visible from wherever he came, but no.
How about Ernst Röhm? Remember Ernst Röhm, the Röhm purge in 1934? Hitler arrested Röhm, had him killed, and 200 or 300 other people were killed. Any memories of the Röhm purge?
No.
No. Remember he had scars on his. Do you remember Ernst Röhm? Do you remember the name? Yeah.
Oh, the name, yeah.
Yes. Had a crew cut. And
Yeah.
His face was all scarred from.
But I have no real memory of him.
Yes. Yes. How about Rudolf Hess, the Hitler's secretary who typed Mein Kampf?
Now, the thing is, on film, for a simple reason, my mother and I, we love to go to the movies,
Yes.
to see a film.
Mm-hmm.
But in Germany at that time, I don't know what it is like today, that before they show the main movie,
Yes.
you have a short one, like a picture film, an animal film,
Yes.
nature or animals or whatever, and in between, a short notice as one little type of what happened worthwhile for the people to know.
A newsreel. Newsreel.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where you would see these
Yeah.
Goring and Hess and the others. Yes. Yes. Toward the end of the war, Goebbels would have these big rallies and he would say the Germans were being defeated. He would talk about total war. Do you want total war? The audience would say, yes. Do you want total war? Yes. Any memories of that? He did that for a couple of months.
Yeah. And that was, wollt ihr den totalen Krieg?
That's right, yes.
Oh my God.
And if you remember when Germany was being bombed, Hitler would never come out and talk to the people or sympathize. No. He'd stay alone.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. Was that a criticism by the German people? Did they criticize him for that?
I don't think, if people talked about this, I do not know, because I was in close family circles with my father, who was against Hitler right from the beginning. And that's one thing I described.
Yes.
He lost the job because he refused to rejoin the party.
He lost a promotion. They wanted to make him a sergeant, and he said, I'm not joining the party.
Yeah.
And yeah, now, wasn't that a dangerous thing to do? How could he do that? In other words, was there an option you could join or you couldn't? I thought it.
No, and apparently, as I remember when him telling about it, it was almost like not a big thing. He was on duty, sitting on his desk in the precinct.
Okay.
Because of his injury in one of the fights, he could no longer do the beat at any length of the
Yes.
time or what. No, he got the job at the precinct, which was good. And two guys show up, showing him their emblems as members of the Nazi Party,
Mhm.
and said they have come to come. They would like, the party would like, because after all, he is the public eye daily
Yes.
contact with
Yes.
the policeman,
Right.
you know, to join the party. And he said no, he would not.
Mhm.
And
And no repercussions from that?
not that,
I'll be damned.
because they came at a second time. And then he was saying something which was not very prude. You know, you can say something and still say it no matter that the opponent does not feel hurt or
Yes. Offended.
offended.
Yeah.
No, his detail, as far as he told me, as my mother told me, that I remember, they said, I never shall join that party.
Like that. Wow. Very brave man. Yeah.
And that's yours the job immediately.
So once he loses his job, what does he do?
Well, that was a problem.
Yeah.
My grandfather, who had a little enterprise himself, you know, owning a construction type thing, namely hot and cold water in buildings which had to be built, because at that time Germany having hot water out of the wall, you know, through a pipe was very rare. It was in the building developing, and he was one who saw, you know, of making life for the general person easier by having a company with the appropriate team of guys who have learned how to weld and how to sew and how to do this and that, you know, as plumbers, so to speak. What any plumber here has to learn, they had to learn, that was needed. And so when Hitler got, my father got fired, there was nothing my father had learned,
Sure.
because when he was 18 years old and the World War I began, he was there all the time until the end. He got poisoned, was poison gas, you know, was damaging one or two of his lungs. So you had to be careful in terms of getting a cold and coffee and whatnot. And so that's so he, my grandfather then said, well, you work for me, I pay you, you know, because there's always somebody who has to work something where he does not need a special training, like as a plumber, have welding and putting joints or pipes together, but you know, cutting things with a saw, or doing this or that, as helpers, the other helpers, you know,
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Yes.
So that kept them alive.
Yes.
And my mother got a job to work on Fridays and Saturdays on an open air market for a butcher to cut and wrap meat. So she always, that was because each day, that's Fridays and Saturdays, she came back with a little pack of meat and fat or sausage or whatever, you know, for us to eat. I have to say, during the entire war, I have not had a single day of hunger. No.
No.
So she had this, and so that was enough to keep us afloat.
Yes. Yes. Just can't believe he would say, I'm not joining the, there's a saying, go along to get along.
Yeah.
Why not just say, I don't like the party, but I'll join anyway to keep my job?
That
He
would have
didn't
been
do
better.
that, did he?
It would have no.
He was too principled.
He hated them, and so he was outspoken.
Yes, yes.
He could see a word, he knew it was the wrong wine at the wrong time.
Yes, yes. But that can get you in trouble, as the dentist was outspoken.
Yeah.
Right? Fortunately, your father didn't have the same experience as the dentist. When you think in your mind, do you think in German or English or both?
Oh, absolutely both.
Both.
Thinking for me, reading a German word is no problem.
Right?
Talking to another German, no problem. After all, I grew up there. But on the other hand, there are sometimes phrases where in a German newspaper or book a word is used and I don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have to use the dictionary. Well, I have a dictionary to look up what it means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So when you think, there are sometimes you think in English and sometimes in German. It's interesting how you do that,
Well, once I'm in English, it's only English for me. That's what I live with. And so, let's say temptation of speaking German is very little.
Yes.
Very, very little.
But you haven't really lost it yet, have
No,
you? No.
no.
If I brought a German citizen and sat them here, you could converse with no problem.
Correct.
Okay.
And of course, it's going to happen in 3 weeks when I leave for Germany.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Interesting how your mind keeps the language. And reading also in German, no
Yeah.
problem. No problem.
Yeah. No problem at all.
And of course, no problem in English.
Yeah.
Any other is French? You say you've lost a little of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I lost for lack of
Use.
practice.
Yes. Yes. Interesting.
Although I'm an absolute francophile guy.
Yes. Yes. Do you know a lot about Charles de Gaulle, for example? Are you a big de Gaulle fan?
Yeah, de Gaulle.
Yes.
And
You remember de Gaulle was very courageous when the Germans came in. A lot of the French just accepted them. They went along with it. Marshal Pétain, who
Pétain, yeah.
Pétain was head of Vichy, he went along with it. De Gaulle got out of there and went to London and set up his own Free French. Very courageous man.
But as far as I remember, Pétain was actually put on trial years afterwards and executed.
Yes, that's right. No, he wasn't executed.
No.
He was sent to Elba.
Oh,
They said
that
that,
one.
yes, that's right. Yes, yes.
But he was convicted.
Yes, of
yeah,
being a
yeah.
traitor.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. He was the World War I hero.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Now your father, correct me if I'm wrong, was drafted in the army, and didn't he go to Poland? He served in the wasn't he in the Polish conflict?
For 2 days. Because when he when put in uniform, they found out that it was the wrong time to draft him at all.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
He was too old for it.
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let him go.
Okay. Couldn't he have shown a birth certificate and they would know right away? Well, you're too old,
But when he married my mother, my mother's, they were Eastern German from East Prussia.
Mhm.
And of course, what now goes on in Ukraine,
Yes.
every day I see it, it hits me because I know that my own family members at that time suffered the very same stuff the poor Ukrainians now have.
Yes.
I've seen it all the same thing.
Yes. Yes. What do you think will happen there? Will the Russians eventually take over because the other countries will tire of supporting the Ukraine? What's going to happen? Any idea?
Yeah, I don't think anybody will risk another nuclear war.
Keep in mind, Putin is threatening every so often. He threatens us. Yeah. What a character he is. It's amazing what one man can do, Hitler, Stalin, Putin. Millions of people are dead because of them, and you know. Boy, boy. Where were you when John F. Kennedy was shot?
At the time in Virginia.
Working at a hospital? What were you
No,
doing?
yeah, I was working at chief resident at Alexandria Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened that day? Was everybody let out? It must have been something that happened.
Well,
That,
constantly, oh my God.
yeah.
But
A sad weekend, wasn't it? I mean, he was shot on Friday,
yeah,
and then Oswald was shot on Sunday. Did you follow that as to what happened to Kennedy? Some people think the CIA killed him. Others think the Russians. Some people think President Johnson. Did you ever get interested in that conspiracy?
no.
No. There are still people working on it today, trying to figure out what happened 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't understand that. They devote every waking moment to it. I've talked to them. Still can't figure out what happened there.
And on the other hand, the Germans, of course, during the war, obviously, after the war especially, still today, have had so much contact with the Russians that the Russians are not a welcome company in Germany, even today.
Even today. How do you like that?
On the other hand, of all the bad things which the Russians have done, I can think that the Russians twice have helped me to get where I got.
Yes.
After they went to my parents, after the war was over, see whether they survived and brought them some stuff to eat. And after I came home, although he lived now in Karlsruhe at the Soviet occupation era, where the Soviets had
Their sphere.
Trying to find out in retrospect what happened to him. I think that when he talked to me, that he needed to disappear because he was an escaped Russian prisoner.
Yes.
And then that he never forgot it, because after the war, he went immediately to my parents to see whether they had survived. And when his boss, Colonel Tulpanov, was a Russian top dog for education and culture and arts and this type of Tulpanov. He talked to Tulpanov because at that time, when the camp, I lived in West Berlin, but at that time the only university to finish was still in East Berlin. And there was a big propaganda already in the press, and the people who live in West Berlin on the cost of the East Berliner, of the Democratic Republic, they should leave and show their true nature of resign and come to East Berlin, to the German Republic, the Democratic Republic, what the cargo was.
Were you living in Germany when they built the Berlin Wall?
No.
No, you were here in the United States. What did you think of Khrushchev building that wall?
Crazy.
Crazy, isn't it?
Stupid.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
And remember, people would jump over the fences and sometimes get shot trying to get out of East Berlin. Crazy. How about the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962? You were here in the United States?
Yes.
Yes. You remember that, the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, that was of a little bit, but in this case, I thought, well, the US, we are strong enough, it's not going to explode into something big. No.
Right. You did not think so?
No.
No. You were right. Right.
I have, well, about 2 months ago, got a thick, big book written by Henry Kissinger,
Ah, yes.
who was a native Bavarian. And he was my patient. I saw him.
Honest, no kidding. Yes. Wow. Wow.
Because after I had become a radiologist in Alexandria, Virginia, from internal, I wanted to be an internist. That's how I started in Alexandria. And I was in a way, to prepare for the internal medicine specialty qualification examination. Thanks for this. The only thing is, I had beneath me, since I was a chief resident in this department, Alexandria Hospital, of 2 interns. When they had a patient and said, well, this patient has that or this happens, and then the X-ray showed such and such. I said, how do you know? Well, the radiologist said so. I said, do you see the preacher? No, he told us so. I said, we go. And I said, go with me. I want to look at the films, the images,
Yes.
not because a radiologist said so. No, I want to see it. And it became a fashion that I did not accept any X-ray film, building, and the image. At the time, you could, was printed on the paper, or except the film itself, fresh out of the developing. I wanted to look at the view and then discuss it with the radiologist. And based on my questions, the radiologist one day said, it's a pity that you stick with internal medicine. You got an eye for radiology because you sometimes see something that other people don't see, missed. And for instance, if it's a tiny little bit something, where I went to see him. He said, I don't know what it is. I don't have the training yet. However, there is a shadow. There's something which does not belong there.
Yes.
And he was so impressed. He said, you ought to change, become a radiologist. So I dropped my training in internal medicine, took another couple of years to go back into training to become a radiologist.
Henry Kissinger turned 100 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You got 2 years on you.
Yeah, and I got as a gift from one of our friends his big book.
Yes.
It came out recently.
It's this thick.
Yeah, I read it. Incredible.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I gave it to somebody else to read. One of our friends. But for instance, this detail with Adat, the Egyptian president, how Egypt became its own state finally after thousands of years. Now it is a nation to which one looks with respect, even of their history in a way. No, this is fabulous in this book.
Yes.
Yes.
Imagine writing a book at 100 or 99. Think of the effort and the energy. It's not easy to write a book.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, I gave it to somebody else of our friends. He's a Berliner like me.
Yes.
Except he's only 6 years younger. And he lived in Tempelhof. And then in 44, no, not 44, it was only 40, 42, but the schools in Berlin were closed and all the children sent out in the countryside to live somewhere else. Yeah, he was one of those who also was evacuated with the school. I refused to go, so I had to find another place to do my finish. I had 1 more year to go.
Yes.
There was a Königs Wusterhausen, was about, 35, no, 30 miles, 40 kilometers out from where we lived. So I had to take a train at 6 o'clock in the morning to be there at 7 o'clock, because at 7:30 the school class started.
Mhm.
I had to do it for 1 year.
Oh.
That's the last year.
That's rough.
Yeah, I did.
Didn't you went to take an army physical? They thought you were too small. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What height did you have to be?
Well, in Germany, I don't know.
How small were you then? You're 5'3", 5'4"?
No, I 5'5" or 5'6", something.
And that was too small for them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But eventually they still did.
Yeah, they as they needed more men, they opened up more.
But there's one article I devoted some time to. Before I decided to go into medicine, study medicine, in a hospital in Berlin where we lived, Dr. Waterstraat, who taught me how to use a stethoscope, how to make a history, how to use a stethoscope, and this and that, who then taught me the basics of a beginner,
Yes, yes.
and we were close friends. He had fantastic parties to give, and I was always to his parties, And then he got a job in the Robert Koch Institute
Mhm.
for virus research. And then one day he was kidnapped in
Ah.
broad daylight. I don't know whether they got into
Yes,
that.
you have it in the book.
And the follow-up I have now, not in paper, but somebody else I met through the book club, who had a relative who was in Moscow. He found out #1 after Dr. Waterstraat, my friend, promoter, got kidnapped in broad daylight from the train station
Yes.
in Berlin. He was taken to Moscow.
Ah.
He was put on trial as a spy
Boy,
and executed.
I'll be damned.
And now thinking back, I can think how an agent in Russia thought. Now Wolfgang Waterstraat is a civilian working in West Berlin.
Mhm.
However, the French sector,
Yes.
going to do virus research, because they had developed what was developed here in America, not too far down here, the CDEU, tuberculosis, and for advanced tuberculosis, somebody could be cured and saved. And the Americans had given to the German population after the war doses of streptomycin. Streptomycin was
Right.
the key thing as a new development. Where advanced tuberculosis still could be stopped and maybe many times even healed, except the Americans gave it as a donation to the people from Eastern Germany, who came from Eastern communist-controlled Germany with their medical records after they saw their own doctor. that they had this and this, and if they were able to get an American donation of streptomycin, their life could be saved. And this is why then they took a train to go to the Robert Koch Institute, where my promoter, Wolfram Waterstraat, his new job had, except it was in the French sector, also in West Berlin. So when somebody came, I have this, and my doctor sent me with this. Waterstraat did not have the authority to say, okay, here's a reception or a pull of the medicine, you have to take it 3 times a day or what. No, he had to justify to the Americans that they would give some of their precious streptomycin which they needed for their own American troops stationed in Germany as a remedy, to give it to a helpless, sick East German. So therefore, when somebody came with the papers, he said, well, all right, fine, I will have your papers. I have to study these and submit these to the Americans, whether they have anything left over for you or not. So you have to come back in a week. Then I can say either yes, give it to you, or if you don't have luck and they don't have any, sorry, there's none available. But these patients had to come from Eastern Germany, go to the Western sector, the French sector, Robert Koch Institute, talk to Waterstraat personally, leave, and then a week later come back again whether they could get the medicine or not. Now think as a Russian or Soviet intelligent guy. There's an East German who goes in there, goes back home again, but a week later he comes back again.
Yeah.
There's something fishy about that. So you cannot really blame the Soviets completely that they were suspicious.
Yes.
But that poor Waterstraat, Wolfgang, had to pay with his life for it.
Yes.
He had no idea, and perhaps in the American intelligence side, they also did not think about the possibility.
Yeah. How old was he when he died, Waterstraat? Do you remember?
He was in the early 30s.
Wow.
His daughter was about 3 or 4 years old.
Still living today? No, is his daughter still living today?
I don't know.
No.
But he moved away and whatever came. But there was one where they tried hard, but was not it. So there I cannot, let's say, blame the Russians, whether they're Soviets or not Soviets. But in this case, the suspicion, somebody comes from Eastern Germany, goes into the French sector, goes to a hospital, leaves again, comes a week later, back again, and then says everybody, well, I just got some medicine, which I need, there's a medicine instead of, what if instead of medicine? That may have been the truth.
Right.
But what, instead of medicine, they got something else
Sure.
to take,
Sure. Very suspicious.
Yeah.
Very suspicious.
But it took me all this time until recently to find that.
Yes. And do you believe do you believe the findings? Do you think that's the accurate story, in other words?
For some. And thinking about my Russian friend, the Soviet agent, whom we were hiding, and then after the war, I came to my parents, and when I came home from captivity, he was happy to see me, and we had a couple of wonderful days together, going out for dinner and whatnot. And he lived in the east. He lived in Western Germany, in a British sector, and the Soviets, his own people, who had him in, as his guy who was traveling for the Soviet army through Eastern Germany to entertain the Soviet troops during that time they were stationed in Germany, that they didn't like it, and they told him several times to leave Western Germany. It was not a good, proper place for him to live. He should be, you know, in the Soviet sector, but he didn't do it. After the war, then, I did not know what had happened, but then my father and I, we went one day after we didn't hear from him for several weeks, but he's not there. What happened? He is not coming. He wanted to go to his apartment house where he had rented an apartment with an elderly single German lady who lives in Schöneberg, Berlin. And she told us a story how he was taken. One day, two Russians in civilian clothes came, and they were in his room, and she was not allowed to say hello or touch anything. They were together talking for 10 to 15 minutes. She said, with a long time. And then they left, except he was in the middle, and both had him on each arm, and he took him away.
Mm.
And he disappeared forever.
Sure, sure.
So he was under suspicion of having a spy thing,
Sure.
that he was not kosher enough, you know, so that they executed.
Yeah. And they never want to make a mistake and let you go.
Yeah.
If they're in doubt, they'll take you. Yeah. Better to have them dead than, you know, they take the blame. All right, do you want to have some coffee
No.
and cake? Let's do that.
Well, whenever you want.
No, we can do it now.
Are you finished, or
Well,
you going to go
well,
carry
yeah,
on?
we can do it now. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, if you finished, or you're going to carry on afterwards.
No, I think we're finished. You know,
Okay,
I may
that's
want to
fine.
come back and talk to him more if that's
That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're only 10 minutes away.
Okay, where do you live?
In University City. Do you know
Oh,
where that
yeah,
is?
sure.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes away.
Whereabouts? I used to live there.
Yes, let's see, it's on, I'm trying to give you, Governor and Stressman. Can you picture that?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
yeah,
big park on Stressman.
Correct.
Right?
This
Correct.
Well, I'm a block away from that.
is where
Okay.
part of her bunch from South Africa lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No,
quite a few South
Nobel,
Africans.
Nobel Street.
No.
From-
No, the Bell Street is far from where you live.
Yes.
You remember I lived in Weller Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know Weller Street? You
Yeah,
turn left with the
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that time